Good afternoon. I'm speaking to you live just outside
I like to think balding is just God's way of saying, now let's see you get laid.
Is it true that if you don't use it, you lose it?
What I'd really like to do is put the greatness of this man in perspective.
The hair loss community has a lot to be thankful for, having you as a spokesperson.
You mean you just call this guy up?
About life and about reality.
And now, America's #1 reality radio show for men. Live from Los Angeles, it's Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth.
Hey guys, welcome to the show. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. Thank you guys for hanging out. I know that Joe alerted everyone to our being a little late today, about a half an hour late, but for those who are tuning in via iHeartRadio and iTunes and Stitcher and all those guys, you may have turned on the program at 2 sharp and we're like, where the fuck are these guys? Well, we're here. I hope that you guys decided to hang out. Let's pop up Joe, who is live in our TBT studios in Vancouver, British Columbia. Joe, what's happening, man?
I'd like to correct you and say it was rescheduled, not late.
Rescheduled, correct.
Yes. Because I did jump ahead and reschedule or schedule it originally for 2:30 instead of 2. 2:30, 5:30, and 10:30 Greenwich Mean Time. And we're still late.
What are you going to do? What are you going to do? I noticed that my volume was slightly lower last week. I tried to fix it. However, my boy Fred is coming to the studio, hopefully Monday, and we're going to have this thing completely rewired because I cannot wait for Andrew Zarian. Oh, now, you know what? I just realized something.
Uh-oh.
There is, for some reason, there is a mouse over your video. And Andrew reminded me, told me about that last time. I'm going to have to actually physically go to the other computer.
No, who cares?
And try to move that around.
Doesn't matter. No one even noticed it.
Matters to me. It's bugging the shit out of me now. Anyway, guys, listen, this is the Hair Loss Show. We are live. This is our Friday afternoon broadcast here in the West Coast. And some of you may notice I'm having an actual real drink at 2:30 in the afternoon today, not just a beer. Now, yes, it's Friday. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and it's 10 o'clock someplace else. 10:30 in the UK, I think, right?
10:30, 10:41 currently.
But I wanted to toast and make a toast to a man who really started it all for me. A guy who passed away yesterday at the age of 96. I mean, this guy lived a long, healthy life. His name is Dr. Norman Ohrenreich. And it was Dr. Norman Ohrenreich who motivated me after having my consultation with him at around the age 22, 23, to step back and say, there is something really fucked up here. Something is not right. And I am going to do all of my research, write a book about this stuff, and expose this field for what it is. So cheers to Dr. Norman Ohrenreich. It just goes to show you, I mean, this guy lived a fruitful, productive life. Guys like Joe from Staten Island and countless others are walking around, with pretty unhappy lives. There are many women in the world many women who went to see this particular doctor who had the, silicone injected into their faces. And the FDA actually had to contact him and say, you shouldn't be doing that.
They didn't say you shouldn't be doing that. They said stop doing that.
Stop doing that. Right.
That's bad.
But I know that it's a touchy situation. I mean, the guy dropped dead. But it's not like he dropped, it wasn't like suddenly. This is an old cat, almost 100 years old. And yes, Is he a dermatological a pioneer in this field? Yeah, he essentially reinvented the modern day hair transplant. In my view, he chose the wrong technique that they were reading about back when a couple of Japanese guys were experimenting with hair transplant surgery back in the 30s and early 40s. He also is known for being one of the guys who helped to start the company Clinique. So this guy was fucking loaded. His kids are loaded. I'm pretty sure they're in the hair business for sure. And I know there's a lot of stuff circulating online. Rest in peace, Dr. Norman Ohrenreich. And I am not one to speak ill of the dead. All I can do is thank him for being the motivating factor for me writing my first book, launching my broadcast more than 20 years ago. And I do not believe that he was aware of the influence he had on me and how many silent sufferers, how many souls he was able to help by enlightening me about this industry. So here's to Dr. Norman Ohrenreich.
I'm pulling a Kaepernick. Sorry. I'm pulling a Kaepernick.
Look,
hold on. Kneeling.
Well, here's the reality.
Kneeling.
It really was him or he who motivated me to do what I do.
And that's awesome.
Yeah.
But let's back up. If he hadn't done what he'd done, you wouldn't have to do what you did.
Yes. That's the truth.
If I could drop the mic, I would.
Yeah. That is the truth.
Cost money.
But he did.
I'm pulling a Kaepernick, and the reason being is because...
my hair looks good.
It does.
Thank you.
I'm telling you. I'm convinced he read the Okuda papers.
I'm convinced of that, too. I don't know that for sure, but
they weren't lost.
Right.
Oh, look, they came back. They resurfaced 50 years later. No, sorry. I don't believe that. This is my opinion. But he read the Okuda papers, and he thought to himself, why the 1 millimeter? Are you kidding me? Who has time for that? Yeah. Aha! But this 4 millimeter punch, this makes it easy. And thousands of people were maimed.
Hundreds of thousands over the years.
Hundreds of thousands were MAIMED maimed because of it.
Their lives were destroyed when while this guy was vacationing, having summers in the Hamptons.
At his home in the Hamptons. Yeah. Probably one of 5. I mean, who knows? But yeah. Look, here's the way I look at it. I don't speak ill of the dead either. But I will speak ill of accomplishments.
Or lack thereof.
Or the lack thereof. Or the anti-accomplishments. And
well, I would say that I'm probably his greatest accomplishment. Sorry.
So, yeah, you are actually. It's a good way of putting it. But
John Cole put it that way. So
a lot of people. I saw some postings over the past 24 hours.
How are you feeling this, by the way? Go ahead.
By some doctors, and look, I'm sorry, but shame the fuck on you. I'm sorry to go out there and to salute this guy as being the father of hair restoration surgery. I think is a disgrace. I think it's a slap in the face to the hundreds of thousands that were harmed because of the way I look at it, his laziness, his shortcut to dollars. Imagine in the 50s if he had picked up a smaller punch and said, yeah, we can make this work, and put in the hard work like Dr. Woods did, or like Dr. Cole did, or like any of the actual pioneers of true FUE did, or even like Okuda did back in 1929. Imagine where I wouldn't have become who I am. I wouldn't have become Joe Tronic, because plugs turned into strip, which was mini micrografting. So it was a progression out of plugs. And I think that he is single-handedly responsible for the way that this industry is today, for the money grab that we've got today, for the hundreds of thousands of walking wounded, to steal your term. And that's why I pulled a Kaepernick.
Well, I can tell you this. I posted something on Instagram, and I just got I'm getting a lot of comments, but I just got a comment from a guy who I know. And he said, I'm glad you had the opportunity to meet him and for the way he touched your life. You are a constant tribute to his goals and life. Now, I wrote something, and, we put up an image. Norman Orentreich, 96, motivation behind the bald truth dies. That was my headline.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one. I like that.
And then I wrote, I've been to many specialists, in quotes, before I decided to pony up the bucks at the age of 22 to have a consultation with the world-renowned grandfather of modern hair transplant surgery, Dr. Norman Orentreich. It was that single meeting that ignited my motivation to write my first book and to do everything I could to warn and educate consumers about this field. He probably had no idea how he influenced me and the countless souls he saved. I'm forever grateful for having that consultation. Now, most people should be able to read into that. This particular guy, who has a kind heart, who wrote this thing to me saying that I'm glad he touched your life, didn't kind of see it. I wasn't going to write anything nasty about this dude.
No.
But here's the reality. When I think about lives like his, and I think about people giving these tributes to and just this guy being able to walk the earth and live his life knowing that there were people like Joe from Staten Island walking around, and not just one, countless walking wounded. It went from him to, our boy in Canada, to all the other guys, to Carlos Puegs of the world, and everybody else who decided to do and follow in Dr. Norman Treich's footsteps. It destroyed many lives. The world would be a much different place, in my view, if some of these people whose lives have been destroyed were able to actually function normally and fulfill their life's ambitions and, live full, productive lives. When in reality, many of these guys have contemplated suicide, at least the guys who've contacted me over the years. Poor Joe from Staten Island, he doesn't even call the show anymore. But for 15 years, he was a staple of this program, and he could not get out of his depression because of his bad hair transplants. My mic going in and out, or is it good?
No, it's good.
Okay. So to honor somebody for just, I guess, being the first to market it's going out.
Now it is.
A procedure that, he was able to reprove donor dominance. But in my view, doctors like this were essentially conducting human experiments for pay on a daily basis. And from the people who have been in contact with us, they believe that their lives have been destroyed.
Yeah. The countless phone calls I've had where I've spent hours on the phone with people telling me how they refused, that they actually had to refuse promotions at work because it would mean that they couldn't wear a hat.
Yes.
I mean, that's one of the more common issues that I would talk to people about.
But when you read his story in the New York Times that came out today,
I saw it.
And the fact that I'm glad that they mentioned the fact that the FDA basically shut him down as far as injecting silicone into people's faces. But the fact that he is seen as a pioneer in anything, instead of just, in my view, just being seen for what it was. Okay, this guy reinvented hair transplant surgery. He did it the wrong way, but other people figured it out. That's fair, right?
I don't know. I can't say.
You hate him. You hate him. He's dead.
No, I don't. I don't. I just hate what he did. I hate what he developed. If it wasn't for him, I would be running my own dive operation down in Fiji or something.
That's the reality. If it wasn't for him, you would never have been fucked up by the doctor who you were fucked up by.
Yeah, exactly.
And that is the reality. And shame on every fucking doctor who followed his lead. Shame on all of you. When people come to me and say, I just never forget when Carlos came to me after he had a couple of drinks in him at this meeting in Las Vegas, and he said to me, Spencer.
The recent meeting, like 2 years ago?
Like, I was young. I mean, it was like 10 years ago.
Okay.
And not young, more than 10. I was in my 30s still. He's like, I don't understand, I mean, you have no idea what the technology was like. We worked with what we had. And I'm like, have another drink, Carlos, because, you'd have to essentially be missing the gift of sight not to see how you fuck these people up.
That'd be like taking someone that lost their arm in an accident and sticking a fucking Lego on it and saying, sorry, that's the best we got.
That's the truth.
Like ripping the arm off of a Ken doll and sticking it on the side and saying, there you go.
Well,
sorry,
anyway,
we don't have anything better.
Rest in peace, Norman. You definitely have a legacy. I can tell you that.
Well said.
Now, I can tell you that I'm sure that his family, everyone, if they hear this, they're going to be upset. What am I going to do?
Don't care.
This is the truth. The truth is I began my career because of my consultation with this doctor.
I thought you were about to say because of my truth. Don't make me come through this camera.
My consultation with this doctor and me realizing, this place was like, it was so packed. It was like a mill. I couldn't believe it. This guy was making money hand over fist. And when I went to that room and he's telling me about his accolades and what he would do for me and that I should try a few hair transplants and see if I liked him. And if I was his own son, he would suggest it. I'm like, this motherfucker is crazy. There's something wrong here. I know I'm desperate. I know I'm losing my hair, but I had no space to put a new hairline.
I know I'm desperate, just like the 30 other schmucks in the waiting room.
And yes, did every idiot celebrity go to this guy? Yeah. Why do you think they look the way they fucking look, in my opinion?
Joe Biden.
There you go.
Sorry, excuse me. Go ahead.
All right, guys. Phone number 888-659-3727. It is, for many, it's a solemn day. I feel for his family, obviously. I mean, he had loved ones, and, now his loved ones, they're living off that legacy. They're in their own practices. I'm sure they got a nice windfall of money. They're probably heading over to the lawyers as we speak.
You kidding me? They had they were in camping sleeping bags on the sidewalk, waiting for him to open.
But, I think this is an example that I don't know if there's karma, man. I really don't. This guy lived till 96 years old, a pretty good life, a charmed life.
Mm-hmm.
When his father escaped from Austria to live in the Lower East Side, have a better life and not be killed because he was a Jew. I can't even imagine that he would think that his kid would have been able to do what he did, as far as, in my view, just experimenting on these poor people. How's that? That's mean. I got to go. There's your video. It's back.
Is it?
Yeah.
Great.
Now
it'll go away.
Now it's gone. Okay. 888-659-3727. Thank you guys so much for listening to that rant, but it just pisses me off. And you know what? People die all the time. Good people die at a young age. This guy lived to 96 years old. And poor Joe from Staten Island is lying in some bed somewhere. He hasn't showered in a month. Hey, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Hey, man.
Oh,
what's up?
Hey, yeah, my name's Jed. Hi, how are you doing?
Jed, I am fine.
Hello, Jed.
Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from the UK. I'm calling from a place called Manchester in the UK on the west coast.
Good
Manchester? Man. I'm going to be in Manchester in a couple of months.
Oh man, God, welcome to our city. It's a great place. Have you been before?
I have not been before, but you know, if you can give me a name of a few good bars or pubs, as you guys may call them, I would like
Oh, mate. Oh, there's tons. Shall I zip it over on the email?
Dude, as long if find me a block where I can walk from pub to pub or crawl, I should say. And it's gonna
head to the northern quarter. Head to the northern quarter and just get involved.
And how are the women?
Oh, mate, they're fantastic.
Really?
The women in Manchester, oh, they're great. They're great. You've got a proper mix. There's two universities. You've got all walks of life here. So, whatever you're looking for, it's here.
And like UK women like old guys?
They're open-minded.
Yeah,
they
good.
love everyone.
They're open-minded. That's not code. I don't know what it is.
Let me tell you something. That's the best I could hope for.
That's good.
So what can we do for you?
So listen, my mate sent me a link to a radio show here. It's BBC World Service or something, and there was a guy on there talking. I can't remember his name.
Spencer Stevenson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Spencer Stevenson, and he mentioned your show, and so I've been listening. A great show, so thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. And you know what? Spence actually is he does the UK show with me. So we don't do it on a regular basis, but we're going to hopefully start doing it on a more regular basis pretty soon.
Right. Oh, I didn't even know there was a UK show.
Yeah.
So, right, brilliant. Well, yeah. I mean, it's a very dull question. I'm sure you get it asked all the time.
Sorry. Before you continue, Jed, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Then go to Instagram and find @Spencer Kobren and subscribe to his Instagram account, and you will know when the UK show pops up.
Yeah.
You'll be alerted.
Brilliant.
There you go. You're welcome. Okay.
Right, that's perfect. That's great. Thank you very much. I will. I'll do that. Because, I mean, for one, there's very few places to talk about this. I've got one mate who, as I say, sent me that link. And, we're blokes. We don't really talk about this. And, I mean, he shaves his head now, actually. But for years, he was putting these sprinklers in. And my question is probably the same old one you always get asked, finasteride. I'm slightly concerned about the side effects, but, I'm losing my hair at the crown. And I just thought this is the best forum to get some advice.
Well, listen, we're not tired of that question. It's a very common question. I have been on the drug for more than 20 years, and I have not had sex in all that time. But, dude, do you think I would?
Manchester.
There's a nice smooth.
Do you think I would be taking this fucking pill if I couldn't have sex? I've been on this for more than 2 decades. So I am a huge fan of finasteride. The reason I'm behind this mic, besides Dr. Norman Orentreich, is because of finasteride. I started using Proscar back in the late 90s before it was approved as Propecia. And it is what has really initially stopped my hair loss, reversed the miniaturization process, and allowed me to keep my hair for a very long time. And then it kind of went into a very like crawl of a progression over the years.
Mm-hmm.
So I am now I'm going to be 54 years old in May, and it changed my life. I recommend the drug to anyone that I can. However, I'm not a physician. I also understand there is a real potential of adverse side effects. One thing that I think, first of all, did you tell us how old you were?
I'm 38. I don't think I did know. 38.
Okay. So you're still pretty young, and it's actually probably a good time. But you're probably more emotionally equipped to deal with the potential of any adverse side effects and realize that it's probably not going to last forever. The vast majority, at least in clinical trials, or everyone during clinical trials who had any adverse side effects, which really just about, what was it, 1.2% compared to 1%. I mean, sorry, 1.5%.
1.8.
1.8, yeah.
1.8, yeah.
So essentially there's a 0.5% differential between the placebo group and the group that took the drug who had adverse side effects. However, the internet really was in its infancy back then, so there were not allowed, the loudest voices really get the most attention. So everyone now is so shit scared to take this drug. I get it. If I were in your position and I read everything about it today, I probably wouldn't take it. And to me, that is a crying shame because so many people could be helped from it. Joe, what are your thoughts?
No, I agree 100%. I mean, I've been taking it myself since early 2002. Actually, it'll be 16 years as of next month, which is, 17 years as of next month, which is my 17-year anniversary for my first repair hair transplant. And it prevented, I was already like a Norwood 6.5, almost a 7. So it prevented me from going over the cliff. I was at the edge. I was at the precipice with one leg dangling off, and it's prevented me from going over the edge. And it's allowed me to, I've had all the surgical work I've had done, and the sides are maintaining. The crown is a little bit worse than it was, but I've had work in it, so it's kind of addressed that area. And I mean, I've seen too many success stories with this medication to not recommend that you speak to your doctor about it and at least consider it. I think it's, especially if you're considering a surgical route in the future, you gotta really seriously consider the medication first before you consider the surgery.
Right. That is exactly the answer I was looking for. That's really clear.
Well, and here's the thing. We're not saying, and again, we're both not physicians, we're not saying that you're not going to experience any adverse side effects, but I can tell you that in my experience doing this program for more than 21 years and having thousands of people contact us through all of our resources, including the American Hair Loss Association, it is still rare in the wild, so to speak. You don't hear about it when people. It's very. We have probably about. I don't know. I work with about 70 doctors, and I am in touch with well over 1,000 physicians, who all prescribe this drug. And it is very rare that someone comes back to them. Not only is it rare for them to have side effects, it's rare for them to have. I mean, I think maybe a handful said that their patients claim to have long-term adverse side effects after stopping the drug. And we're talking about tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of prescriptions that have been filled. So I hope that allays your fear a little bit. We're not doctors. We're not saying, hey, it can't happen to you. Anything can happen when you take a drug. But you have a greater chance of having adverse side effects if you take aspirin than if you take this drug. And that's just the clinical data.
Guys, thank you very much. You've inspired me to, I've not actually even had a word with a doctor about it, So at the very least, you've inspired me to do that. So thank you.
Well, listen, I wish you the best of luck. And, it really is something, if you really want to stop your hair loss, this is the drug to use. However, my recommendation is always, if you can, do nothing. Shave your head. See if you can move on. Because that's a real win. Because I just want you to remember, before you go and get this prescription, I don't want to have to take this drug for the rest of my life, but I have to because I made that choice. I wasn't equipped to deal with losing my hair at a young age. So for me, that was the choice that I made. But if you think that you might be, then you should maybe try shaving your head even before you get a prescription. Is that something you would consider?
Do you know what? I don't know the answers to that. It's a big one.
Yeah.
It's a tough one to answer. I guess if I did the shave the head thing, it feels like would it grow back?
Oh yeah, it'll grow back.
It'll grow back.
Yeah.
That's the worst thing you'd have to deal with is waiting for it to grow back, which depending on the length that you are comfortable with, could take it as short as just a few months.
you know that. Yeah, it's a curveball. I'd never thought of that. That's
Well, the only reason I say it is, it really is, to me, that is the best line of attack. The first line of attack is always to consider just letting nature take its course, because you're not having to put medication in your body. You're not considering surgery down the road. You're not considering gluing hair to your head, or all the things that come along with trying to maintain the appearance or maintain a full head of hair. It's not easy. It's work. And even though taking this medication is easy, you just take one pill a day, that's the way it's prescribed, you're still putting yourself on medication, and you have to commit to it for, at least right now, for a lifetime until something else comes down the line. So I just want you to have that perspective that if it ever entered your mind to possibly shave your head, you can give that a shot before you actually start ingesting the medication.
That's great advice. That's something I can't answer at the moment, but it's something that I'm going to, take away and have a good think about.
All right. Well, welcome to the Propecia bandwagon, because I have a feeling you're going to be taking this drug. But if you do that, really talk to your doctor, become really well educated about, everything that you're putting into your body. And I know that, and I don't want to pimp anything out because I don't even know who the doctor Specs works with, but there's a guy in the chat room that says, I guess Specs works with somebody that prescribes Proscar, Joe?
Yeah, I saw that. I don't know anything about it, but yes, he says, Joe, tell the caller to ask Specs for a contact to his doc, who helped me get on Proscar really easily, as it's hard to get here in the UK. Hard to get Proscar, yeah.
Yeah, so if you are considering it, maybe you go to Specs' website and see, contact him, and maybe he could help you out.
Guys, thank you very much.
All right, man.
I will. I'm gonna go to Specs' website and yeah.
All right, man.
Have a look on there and
good luck.
And consider it.
Tell your friends about the show. All right.
Thank you both. Thanks, gentlemen.
Subscribe.
Yeah.
Subscribe and like the video.
All right, dude. Take care.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
guys.
Thanks for calling.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I mean, I know it could come off as being verbose, but I just want to really make sure that these guys know it's not just like, okay, pull the trigger on finasteride.
You know what's interesting, though?
Yeah.
Like, he was completely open to your advice and my advice. He's like, yep, that's great. That's exactly what I wanted to know. But the moment we mentioned shaving his head, it's like a record scratch.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's like,
well, I understand that. I
don't know about that, guys.
I would be the exact same way. But I feel I would be remiss if I didn't offer that, provide him with insight on that option.
Of course.
Because he wasn't even thinking about it. He was just thinking about, how the fuck do I keep my hair?
Yeah.
And sometimes...
And we're telling him to shave it off.
Yeah, but sometimes it's better just to shave it off if you can.
Jed, sometimes, you let something go. If it comes back, it was yours. If it doesn't come back, it was never meant to be.
Whatever he said. 888-659-3727 is a toll-free number. Can't wait to get my microphone fixed because my levels are just all over the place, man. I don't understand it. And my volume is way up. Anyway. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from? Welcome, man. You're on the air.
Hello.
We can hear you.
It's your opportunity.
I'm going to give you another second. It's a 917 area code.
It's New York.
All right. Phone number 888-659-3727. Look, I tell you, Specs is killing it in the UK as far as his press.
He's everywhere.
These guys must hate him.
I know some people do.
Local guys must despise him for going out there and getting the truth out there in the mainstream media. God bless him.
I'm proud of her, little boy.
Yeah. He's all grown up.
He's all grown up.
All right. Hey, man, you're on the air. Who's this and where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Frico.
Frico.
What's up, Frico?
Frico from New York. What's happening?
I like that. That's good.
I'm running out of things to rhyme with, so I'm trying to be creative. How you guys doing, right?
We're doing okay, man. I am, at least. I don't know how Joe is.
Oh, I'm great.
Yeah. He looks good.
Thank you.
Spence, we got to get you some more Instagram followers. I have more than you, which scares the shit out of me.
Dude, I just started. What do you want me to fucking do?
I know. We'll get you going. We'll get you going.
Let's do it. Let's make it happen.
We'll build it. How you guys doing? All right? Cool.
Yeah. Tell me, help me build it. Help. Send out,
I'll
send out notifications to your buddies.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, man.
Everyone's
thanks.
all afraid to talk about the topic, so they'd be like, "What is this about?" But whatever.
Yeah, no one's even gonna. They're not gonna know that they're following me.
Yeah, that's true, right?
And the reality is, people follow people just to get followers anyway, and it's a crazy game, man.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, I just thought I'd share a couple things. I'll get to my Ariata escapade in a minute, but I actually saw my derm, the original derm that I went to see, and she'd mentioned that she works for, they're called Schweiger Dermatology.
Sure.
And she said that that Bernstein came and gave a talk, and then I happened to see her another time. She said, "Oh, I was thinking about you." He was big on just talking about, of course, you try medical therapy first, and
well, Bernstein Medical was acquired by Schweiger.
Right.
Yeah.
And so he had them sort of like turn and talk to a partner, and he had them do like a little test about what he'd been talking about. But she said she was thinking about me, and she was like, "Oh, so your doctor went right to surgery, and after coming off a drug and not even trying medical therapy first." So she was all like, got all psyched about the subject and whatnot. So,
well, that's good.
Yeah. I thought I'd share that. So it just gets me fired up. I'm like, why didn't I get the try Propecia first? It's like, where was my doctor on that one? I know, Joe, you mentioned your guy did that. I mean, Dr. Wong happened to prescribe it after the fact, but that was a long time ago already. And just like, come on, let's talk the talk first before jumping in the surgery.
I think it's, in my view, tantamount to malpractice, being in this field and not offering every option possible before they cut you.
Yeah.
And not to mention, in my case, I really didn't have a choice. It's like I still needed to get the surgery anyway, just so I could look natural, right? Not walk around with the pluggy hairline. So, but yeah, it's really important for people to try this medication first, because it's like going to get dentures without, you got most of your teeth left. They're falling out, but you don't start brushing your teeth first to see if that helps to keep your teeth before you go get dentures. It's the same difference. Right.
That seems like the obvious, right?
I think.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I happened to see, I think I saw my primary doctor today, and he eyeballed me, and he was like, he actually sent me a referral to a rheumatologist for possible, the autoimmune stuff. But he looked at what my stuff was. He's like, "Oh yeah, that looks like Ariata." And I know we talked about it ad nauseum already about what you guys recommended. And he's like, "Oh, I mean, it's just funny." He's quick to be like, "Why wouldn't you want to do a biopsy first?" And they don't talk about really how invasive it is. He's like, "Yeah, and then you just get cortisone shots, and it grows back." And I'm like, "Yeah, okay, I mean, obviously I'm still going to hold off and follow your guys," because I was talking to FSK in the chat earlier. I'm like, you guys are you guys are like the only ones we trust,
Well, look, here's the thing, though, and I gotta repeat it. We're not physicians, but
no.
The reality is, even from what you're telling me, if a physician is going to say you just get cortisone shots and it just grows back, he doesn't know if that shit's going to grow back.
Right.
Nope. He has no clue. That is actually probably the more rare scenario that the cortisone injections actually help with real Ariata.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if that were the case, you would not see people walking around, children and young teens and women, suffering, and guys, of course, with alopecia areata or alopecia universalis. It just wouldn't. If it was that easy to fucking fix, it wouldn't exist. It would just be a chronic, manageable disease.
Yep.
Right. Well, that's what gets me wondering about. I know in the last time we talked, Joe had mentioned about maybe for faster healing, or with my inflammation issues, or the possibility of Lanatin helping that. But even so, if I end up getting diagnosed with Ariata, it's like, does that even help that? You know what I mean? And that means that am I even going to be a candidate for repairs in the future? That kind of shit. I know I'm over worrying myself with that kind of thing. But it just
Well,
I gotta
if
think
I'm going
about
to be
it at
honest
the
with
same
you,
time.
I would be the same way. And this isn't a phenomenon based on your past anxiety disorder or anything. That's a pretty
No.
normal. That's a normal concern. And
Yeah.
By the way, Joe, we lost your camera.
Yeah, it's fine on my end. Let me see.
So
Yeah, we
you
can't
see how
see
he
it.
does? That's a little passive aggressive. It's fine on my end. Yeah.
Let me kick up a notch. Well, it's obviously your issue.
Yeah. Little passive aggressive. I'm just going to file that one away.
Let me work on this. I'll be back.
Yeah, but listen, Frico.
Yeah, Frico.
I would say that at some point, you're probably going to have to move forward if it continues down this route and potentially get a biopsy. You don't have to do it now, but if it lasts another 6 months, you don't see any improvement. You're gonna want to figure it out, and that's just the way that it is.
Yeah.
You know, I wish that we could say, yeah, you know what? If you take Lonitin, it's going to reverse this issue. You may not even have alopecia areata. He's eyeballing it.
Right.
So I guess if you could find a doctor who's willing to prescribe it and you're willing to take it, then that could be an option for you. Now, you know, we never talk about your hair transplant surgeon. You don't have to name names if you don't want to, but we never really talk that much about, maybe, correct me if I'm wrong, about your initial consultations and, you know, kind of how you got involved in the game and how you kind of pulled that trigger.
Yeah. I mentioned his name in the past. I won't mention it now, you know, just to keep the conversation smooth or whatever. But so I went in for a consultation, filled out the forms, gave history. I had no autoimmune stuff. I was already took the year to come off of the drug, Klonopin, right? I put that in the forms. You know, I was good. Like, I guess I was good and clean to come in, you know, not overly anxious. But they didn't, you know, my consultation was free, but which seemed good for me. And I know you seem like an injustice for those who are really taking the time to have a solid practice and deserve the consultation fee.
Well, it's not even about deserving the consultation fee. I think that patients deserve a physician's full attention, and the only way you're going to get their full attention is if they're being paid. Period.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what's interesting is that I had his and the doctor's full attention. I got like a solid 45 minutes plus for the consultation. He said donor looked good, could do strip or FUE. Obviously, I didn't have any. If I had areata, I wouldn't have been a candidate then, right? Especially for strip or for anything, I guess. And so that time, though, like if they deserve my time, or sorry, vice versa. Well, I don't even remember what my point is. I guess that's the propecia kicking in. Is that it was more about maybe they were taking the time to sell the surgery, but I don't know, not to be a dick about it or anything. And the doctor is an IAHRS member, long time,
and here's the sad part. We are working, with the IHRS. I am working with the best that's available. Period. And there are different levels, different personalities. There are different sales tactics these guys use. My whole thing is, look, if you're averaging, if your batting average is pretty high, and you have enough time on tissue, then you can be part of what we do, because there's so many bad guys out there. But that does not make anybody immune to being fucked up.
Oh, of course not. I mean, I saw, I took my time, looked at his work, liked his work enough, right? Keyword, I guess. But I liked it, and I did remember asking or talking to the consult during the consult, the patient advocate, about. He said, he had 3 strips. Then, like a year later down the line, he then told me, he's like, but I've also had a total of 15 procedures with FUEs after. So it was like, where was that little piece in our conversation?
It was that little tidbit when you were showing me your full head of hair. And first of all, it makes me sick when people call them, when these salespeople call themselves patient advocates. That is fucking, that's repugnant. They are selling surgery, period. Hold on. Speaking of selling surgery, let me try to get Joe back on.
Yeah.
He's not going to like that. That was a fucked up thing to say. Hold on. Joe, I'm just kidding, man. Let's see if I can make this happen.
He's staying silent.
Oh, he's not on yet.
Ah.
I'm trying to reboot with him. He rebooted his computer because it fucked up. Let's see if we got him. Sorry, guys. Hold on. Guys who are listening to the program and not watching don't know what's going on. We lost Joe Tillman's feed, and now Joe is back. Welcome back, Joe Tillman.
Microsoft sucks.
Oh, man.
Sorry, did I say that out loud?
So I was just telling Frico that it really upsets me when people refer to their salesmen as patient advocates.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Joe.
No. I get it because here's why I look at it. Being a former patient advocate, or a current patient advocate, actually, is, a consultant to me sounds like a used car salesman. And so a patient advocate is a less salesy way to label that, but also it's designed to put you at a little bit more ease, a little bit more confidence in who you're speaking with, because what could go wrong? They're your advocate.
Right. It's a total sales pitch. To me, it's one of the sleaziest ways to present a fucking, why not just say, I'm a hair transplant surgery educator. I sit you down here. I give you basically all the information you need before you see the doctor.
And that might have been his title. I can't, maybe, I gave the overly generic term, but one way or another, he represented the clinic and was the first guy I saw before seeing the surgeon.
But he's sitting in that chair talking to you face first because it is his job to essentially throw up that lob so that the physician can then just slam it down to make that sale.
Yep.
Period.
Yeah. I was telling Spencer how he mentioned that he had, because I was talking about scripts, and he'd said that he had 3 scripts, but didn't make mention that he's had a total of 15 procedures with FUEs. And then I also think they consider SMP part of repair, and I'm like, yeah, that's a separate issue, and which is also fucked up to me. But blah blah blah. I don't know. I could go off on it forever. But
I personally, and Joe disagrees with me, but I personally think it's fucked up for physicians to offer SMP in their clinics. I wish they would just stick with surgery and then and work with people who offer SMP.
Okay, so here's another reason why I disagree with that. I kind of agree with that, but here's the thing.
You don't have to agree with me, dude.
No, I know.
That just means that there's no check this week.
And I'm telling you why I don't. I don't because when you leave it in the hands of, God, I'm going to get so much flack for this. When you leave it in the hands of people that are outside the clinic, you think it's sleazy in a hair transplant clinic? You need to wear like waders up to your armpits when you walk into SMP clinics.
No, I don't mind someone working in the clinic. I would think it would be a much better environment, and I understand what you're saying, if the person who's working, say, for so-and-so medical, essentially is leasing a space in that clinic. And
I think that's how they had it set up, but sorry.
Oh, they do? Okay, well, then that's the way that it should be. That makes sense to me. Okay. I don't think that physicians should be making even a percentage off this. Just let a good person have a sterile environment to perform their craft, and it's good that there's going to be potentially physician supervision just to kind of see if this is going to work with this kid's current situation or the transplant. But yeah, I agree with you. I agree with Joe in the fact that you don't want to send somebody to a tattoo shop to get the shit done.
Which is what most of these places are essentially. I mean, there's some people out there that are not going to hear me say that, but it's true.
Even if they have someone come in from, who's been trained by Medical, when I already first had to address my first, repair concerns, the first part of it was like, oh, we'll do a scar repair, 300 grafts, and do some SMP. And I'm like, that just was already just like, oh, fuck.
No, I don't. No, I don't agree. And no, including including that in a long-term plan. No, I don't agree with that.
Right.
I don't think. I honestly don't think that SMP is reliable enough to include in anyone's plan because you don't know what the fuck it's going to do.
Right.
I preach this. Yeah. Well, of course, it's like you're going to be charged,
Joe,
$3,000
take
or
over
whatever.
for a second. I want to pour myself a cocktail.
God, I wish I could have one now. But I preach this and preach this and preach this that no one should be including SMP into a long-term plan unless they know it's going to work for the patient because, surprise, it doesn't work for everyone. In fact, a lot of people it doesn't work well, or it doesn't last the way it's supposed to. It doesn't set in the tissue the way it's supposed to. Sometimes it disappears, which count your blessings if it does. And doesn't do anything else, but it's like to include. It's like relying on it. It's actually worse than trying to rely on a hair transplant without medication. You don't know.
Right.
You just don't know what's going to happen. So you got to do the test patches. You got to give it time, and you can't be throwing around these diagnoses as if it's set in stone. Oh yeah, SMP not a problem. We'll just include that in the plan.
Right. I mean, my biggest struggle, and I mentioned this in the last time I called, was even just staying focused on the concern itself. When the doctor had mentioned, oh, you probably slept on, the knot was pushed against your head too tight, so it caused that shock loss. And he said a double layer closure wouldn't be too tight. And I said, well, look at it. I mean, what the fuck are we talking about here? So it's just even just staying focused on what the actual problem is instead of then saying, oh, we'll do, scar repair, SMP, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no, I mean, why the fuck
well, here's the thing.
You?
It doesn't matter. Again, IHRS, ISHRS, no HRS, it as soon as you put, there's a certain level of, there's a certain type of personality that even the better doctors can have. And that could be being very defensive, not necessarily listening to the patient once they're presented with real problems, kind of like giving the typical responses and then hoping for the best that the patient just disappears. That's pretty normal and pretty classic. And it doesn't matter who it is. I've had guys who've gone to names, I'm not even going to name names, who you would never think would have a problem. Who believed that this particular doctor's treatment was so appalling and disappointing that they're mad. I mean, they're upset. It's not just about the result; it's about the way they were treated, just for complaining or just for voicing a concern, just for pointing it out.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry that you're dealing with this, man. But that's why that's why we do what we do, because we want people to be fully prepared. It's great. You see great before and after pictures. You see great stuff on the forums. These guys are really well known. They have great names. They're part of what we do. You could still get fucked up.
Of course.
That's
why I'm calling and sharing. Yeah.
I kind of wish that. I do wish, and it bothers me. It's concerning to me that this particular doctor or consultant didn't tell you to give finasteride a try. Now that wasn't even on the table.
No.
Jesus.
I'd say, I mean, it was not even, they asked if I was on it, and I said no. So it wasn't a conversation, oh, you should try it, maybe come back in a year, let's see how it works. Nothing simple. Like they could have made that a simple converation,
Was it in the summertime? I mean, did the guy have to pay his kids' tuition the next month or something? I mean,
I don't know. I mean, I did see him in the summer, yeah. I don't know what the motivation was.
Summer is slow.
Yeah. But, whatever.
I tell people, I don't know how you feel about this, Joe. I don't like I wouldn't have any type of cosmetic surgery in the summer. Hold on. He's going to disagree with me again. Let me put the camera on him.
I don't know. I mean, I
had 2 months off, so that's why for me it was like the desirable time to do it. But yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I see fuck ups all times of the year. I've seen.
Well
yeah,
said.
Yeah, to me, it's.
I try not to
neither
do
here
it.
nor there.
I personally, I try not to do anything.
I just try not to do it on Monday.
I try not to do anything around the holidays. I don't like to do anything personally in the summertime because, say we're here in Los Angeles, people are traveling back and forth. They're going to Vegas. They're going to their places in why can't I think? In what is
Away
it?
from where
Springs.
they live.
Not Silver Springs.
Oh, Palm
Palm
Springs.
Springs, whatever it is. They're traveling. They're doing more drinking during the summer. You know, their kids are off school.
Mm-hmm.
You know, their wives want to fucking do shit, so they have to stay busy.
I look at it like this: a really hard all-night bender. You're still hungover on Monday if you do it on Saturday. So, you know, if you're going to have a hair transplant, do it Tuesdays.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Do it Wednesdays, or do it Thursdays. Don't do a Friday.
I did it on a fucking Friday.
Because the girls want to get the fuck out of there on Friday.
That's the thing, man.
They're tired from the week, and they're ready to get the weekend started.
Yep. I felt that because they even had a tech come in, and he said that he'd been working with someone else, and I was like, oh, man.
Back up. A tech came in? What do you mean?
Not one of the techs who was an irregular apparently came in on that Friday, who'd been working with, if I can say the name, I remember because I wasn't overly volumed up. He said that he had worked with John Frank. I mean, I remember a shitload of stuff during the surgery, obviously, but I remember him just not being a regular. And then I was like, oh, shit, I guess I didn't do all of my research.
So you had your surgery in New York?
Yeah.
Okay, so, I mean, who'd you have it by again? I forgot.
I was going to say we could get Suncast to go back to those old shows.
Okay.
Dr. Dorn. No, I'm kidding. Dr. Dorn.
Dr. Dorn. Yeah. You know, and it's funny because guys call in about Dr. Dorn, they're so happy with everything.
Yeah. That's why I went, man.
Yeah.
That proves your point. Like, shit can happen no matter, you know, what your plans are, what you know, what you don't. I don't know.
But the thing is, the feedback usually is like just the kindness and the time and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's how it was at first, you know. But shit can go wrong. And so, I mean, and that's the thing. Like, he's given me a lot of time off, but then when it got to be the fact, like what we talked about last time, where an actual problem can occur, because that's the reality of things, then it became like, oh, man, you know, just a different sort of story after the fact. So shit can happen, and no one's necessarily at fault. But, yeah, my stars weren't aligned, I guess. So, whatever.
Freako, man. I you know, every time I hear you calling in, I know you're suffering, and it kills me. It really does.
No. I'm hanging in.
All right.
So,
well, then you gotta help me with my Instagram. Maybe I'll get your mind off the shit.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Distract yourself from the things that are bothering you in your life by supporting Spencer Kobren on Instagram.
I mean, I did almost just about double my net followers. Here's what's interesting though. I lost hundreds of followers when I started to post the hair stuff. Isn't that fascinating?
Weird. That's weird.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel really good about it. We're getting good response. People are starting to regram stuff. I'm noticing a steady increase in followers every day. It may take a year, but it's going to eventually. It's just going to grow exponentially.
Absolutely. All right, guys, let me go so you can take some other calls.
All right, Nico.
Be in touch soon.
Good luck. All right, we're here.
Thanks
for calling.
You bet. All right, guys. Thank you. Bye.
See you.
Breaks my heart, man. Fucking breaks my heart. And that's why we say it doesn't matter who you go to. Anything is possible. Be prepared. Why did everyone just hang up? Did I hang up on everybody?
Did you?
Guys, Guys, call back. 888-659-3727 is the toll-free number. I don't feel like promoting anything for free at this point, at this stage of my life, but this is good and smooth. And again, cheers to the life and to the career of Dr. Norman Ohrenreich. If it wasn't for you, I would not be sitting behind this mic.
Cheers to the life I could have lived. Thanks, Dr. Ohrenreich. I'm sorry.
Look, in your case, it's true. But here's the thing. Again, I knew it was fucked up. But when I got home that night, I did think maybe he's telling me the truth. Maybe I'm just too cynical. But then I thought better of it.
That was my awakening moment after my first consultation with Mike Furco. And that's what led me to doing my research.
Right.
And I still wound up going with who he recommended, which was at the time Dr. Wong. But I remember that thought. As I walked out the door, I was like, this motherfucker just told me everything I wanted to hear. I can be repaired. I can have more hair.
Dude, that guy would give you a handy to get you in the chair. I love him. I love him to death.
But he was spot on. Actually,
No.
not only was he 100% right,
He also knows his shit.
He was also wrong in that the number of grafts that the doctor was able to get was more than he thought that was possible. Because I remember Mike had said, "Oh yeah, we're good. 1,800." I think he said 18 to 22, or maybe he said 16 to 2. Anyway, and we wound up getting 2,400 and taking out both of my existing donor scars at the time. And he didn't think it was possible, but Dr. Wong came through.
He always
Little
does.
story there.
He always does.
Usually, yeah.
I know. I was distracted by Pornhub here. They're trying to get the show on Pornhub.
Are they still trying to get on Pornhub?
It has to be short clips, dude.
Can you see the screenshots that people would make out of that one?
Please don't put the show on Pornhub.
Please don't.
Just please don't do that. We're not giving you permission to put the show on Pornhub. Not that there's anything wrong with Pornhub, but there's a lot of fucked up people in this industry who would love to see Joe's face somehow on Pornhub.
Not quite sure how to take that one.
Take it any way that makes you feel better, dude. Phone number is 888-659-3727. All of our faces. You're on the air. Who's this? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, hey, it's Lewis from Florida.
Hey, Lewis, what's happening,
Hello,
man?
Lewis.
I don't think it's Lewis, you guys. There's a lot of Lewises down here in South Florida.
I make believe I know everybody.
The Latin name is like saying Smith for your last name in English. It's like a million of them.
Yeah, someone gives their name and they sound like they might be familiar. I just fucking fake it.
But the thing is, I've only known two Smiths in my entire life.
And there's other names, like Carlos. If you call Carlos down here, half of the people turn around and say, "What?"
Well, there you go. Yeah, exactly. That's a good description right there.
But it's
so what's going on, man?
But man, let me tell you guys, I've been in this thing, this hair transplant thing since back in 1986. Believe it or not, when I was in college, 26 years old.
Oh, I believe it, dude. Go ahead.
Let me tell everybody that's out there listening that you guys are such a great resource for information that going to a doctor, going to 2 doctors, 3 doctors, you guys give out more good, truthful information that can be acted on by anybody out there. Because like you guys, I went through it. I started to lose my hair when I was like 24. By 26, I was panicking. And unfortunately, I did have a plug transplant from a doctor down here in South Florida who actually was my doctor growing up, but he had written books or something about hair and all this stuff, and I just trusted him like, he was God. Anything he said, he would never do anything.
What was his name?
Bad
Was his name Shapiro?
No, it was Resnick.
Dr. Resnick.
Wow, that's a name I've not heard in a long time.
That is old school, man.
That's old school, but back in the day, he was like one of the gurus down here. He was like the handful of people that did it.
And it shows you how easy it is to become a guru in the hair transplant field. God bless Dr. Norman Orentrack.
Yeah, it was. So I, like you guys probably went through it. My hair was receding. I was probably at Norwood 2, going to 3. And I was his patient before I was going bald. And I remember seeing some advertisement on his wall saying hair transplant solution to your hair loss. And he was also advocating minoxidil 2%, with information that read like minoxidil is worth its weight in gold and that kind of, aggressive marketing. So anyways,
I've lost almost all faith in humanity. Doing what I do for the last 21 years, it's very difficult for me to go to a physician.
It is. Yeah, and I ended up. I'm a doctor of veterinary medicine. I'm retired now, but became a doctor of veterinary medicine, which is at that point, because I was in veterinary school, was even worse because I was at the stage where I even looked up to doctors even more.
Right.
But not to the stage where I'd been out in the real world and knew what could happen.
Well, you actually did God's work. I mean, being a vet is an incredible. It's. I mean, you can make a decent living, but for what you guys do and for just giving people the solace and the ability to help their pets. I mean, people love their animals, man. I know what it was like.
Yeah, no doubt.
I would spend any amount of money on my animals.
Yeah, it's gotten better. People really will. It's part of the family, so
yeah,
they'll do almost anything if they have the means to do it.
Sure.
Of
course.
They'll do almost anything for the animals. But anyways, but again, I can't emphasize enough, anybody out there listening, that you two guys, I hope you make as much money as you can, because you guys are doing, and it's not even about money. I know a lot of it should be about helping people, but your resources.
I like the money idea, though.
Not against it.
Not against it either. Not against it either. That's why I said it up front. But for 4 years now, 35 years, I've been looking for information like this that I could make, because I'm not finished with my hair transplant deal, because what has happened is that I went in 86, the summer of 86, in the middle of veterinary school. I was 2 years into veterinary school down here at the University of Florida. And, oh, yeah, we can stop, let's go ahead and do a hair transplant so we can get your hairline back. And back in those days, it was the plug with like 20 hairs on it.
Yeah.
There's no way that could have looked normal. And I can remember him telling me, oh, no, you're going to love when you see your hair start growing. So I said, well, okay, great. And go ahead and do it. I can't wait.
Of course.
And
but think about what kind of a fucking animal
would do that,
would do that. Think about what kind of fucking animals these guys are and were who do this to people.
Well,
sorry.
There's, I would never do this, but there has been times since when I have thought to myself, I should go back there, because he still practices, believe it or not. He's like 83 years old. And just
still hustling hair.
Him. Yeah, and he's got a son that also does hair transplant. They do, other things. That's not their main deal. But, like the father, like son. I don't know anything about the son, but I do know about the father, what happened with him, with me. But anyways, so he said, no, you're going to love it. You're going to feel much better when the hair starts coming in. So I went back to vet school because the scabs had fallen off. And I was like 3 months into vet school. And all of a sudden, the hair started growing in, plugs, like 1 inch apart. Because back in those days, they put the plugs far away so that the blood circulation would be enough so the hair would grow.
Yeah.
But it looked like, if somebody put one plug on your forehead, it was the weirdest looking thing.
Oh, yeah.
And it freaked me out because people would start coming up to me and say, what the hell are you doing to your head?
Yeah.
And it freaked me out so much that I had to drop out of veterinary school. I had to come back to Miami and put at least another hair transplant, and not with him, with his partner, Dr. Lewis. I don't know too much about Lewis. I went to him because I was so disappointed with Resnick. But I had to have either I went back to Resnick. I said, take these things out. I didn't even know this thing was irreversible. I didn't know the scar. He gave me no information, really. No cobblestoning, no nothing. Just so you're going to feel better. Everybody's doing it. And so I went with that. I had to drop out 1 year of veterinary school, go back and get at least one more transplant so it would look somewhat decent where I could cover it, because I still had a lot of hair. I could cover it, but in the wind or, anything like that, it would be much more visible. So I went and had my second hair transplant because Resnick told me, well, now you can't take these things out. You're going to have scars and all that kind of stuff. So I had to basically either take them out or put some more in. So I put some more in, and, I went on with the minoxidil. He told me, oh, no, don't worry about it. The minoxidil is going to stop your hair from falling out. And so I said, well, hell, what a great deal. A great time to be someone going bald. So I've lived with this thing for, like I said, 35 years. Little by little.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because, again, I had a pretty much of my own hair other than the front line. And I knew after that, because I then started to talk to some doctors, because I just basically, being young and you're basically kind of stupid when you're young, 25 years old.
Of course.
26 years old. You don't know what the heck's going on. You figure the doctor would, how could this guy, my doctor, hurt me?
Do you know? I want you to just kind of realize, it doesn't matter how young you are. It doesn't matter. I mean, there are 45-year-old men right now whose lives are about to be destroyed or have been destroyed today because they didn't do their due diligence. They saw some ad for a fucking machine that does hair transplants on the internet, and they went in, they put their money down, and they want their youth back, and they will never be the same.
Absolutely. Once they cut you, there's a scar there, maybe minimized or whatever, but there's going to be scarring. And that's just the way it is. Like I guess like Joe Rogan, I think his last name is, shaves his head and then has the scars in the back. But anyways.
But you're realizing, when we say this, we're talking about guys who don't give a shit, guys who are doing really bad work, guys who have not had, if you look at Joe's head of hair, even though he unfortunately had to have repair work, he ended up with a very natural, great-looking head of hair.
Absolutely great result.
That's a hair transplant. It's unbelievable.
That's a hair transplant.
Yeah.
But being what I've gone through, and I think Joe probably understands this too, why he tells people probably don't get a transplant, because so many things can go wrong.
Yep.
Even now that I've been waiting for 33 years. I put Topex and stuff like that to try to fill out my hair.
Yeah.
And mostly
Topic.
it looks,
yeah,
Topic. Mostly it looks okay. You do have people out there that know the hair business that'll pick it out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But nobody stares or anything like that when I'm at the grocery store or anything like that. But it's come to a place now. I'm now 58, going to be 59 here coming up in March, that I'm either going to have to continue to do what I'm doing. By the way, I do minoxidil 5%, and I just ordered some finasteride to start on that, just because it's at that point where I don't know how much more the concealer will help.
Can I ask you a question? How has it affected your interpersonal relationships? Were you able to get past it, get married, have a family, all that stuff?
I'll tell you what. When at first, because I had most of my hair and I could kind of cover what they did, I was very, very social, very, very social. But probably like you, Spence. I don't know you, but as the way you talk, go out. Went out a lot, always had girlfriends, got married, and now not married, but had if anything, I was very outgoing.
Right.
I like to socialize with people, like to talk to people.
It's all a show. I haven't left the studio in 20 years. I have my food. Thank God for Postmates. Changed my life.
I tell you what.
Yeah.
He's a hikikomori boy in Japan.
About maybe 10 years ago or so. But thank God, I still maintain the fringe of my hair and stuff like that. But that, I've noticed some people, because there's experts out there that, will notice you got filler or whatever, and you get kind of self-conscious about it because if they pick it out and they say something about it. I remember being at the beach and some guy said, "Oh, you got paint on your head." And so things like that.
Yeah, welcome to my world,
obviously.
dude.
Yeah, and, as much as I go out there, I've had moments where basically somebody says something like that, and you kind of hesitate to go out, because you become like self-conscious that somebody's going to say something or whatever.
Sure,
of course.
So it doesn't help your confidence, that's for sure. And so I've basically been able to work through it, but now at this stage, I'm either going to have to. I got probably like 40 plugs, because back then they used to do like 20 plugs at a time or 10 plugs at a time or whatever in the front hairline. But there's a little cobblestone stoning, and so I don't know how that would look. I would prefer, because for all the stuff you have to go through, and I think Spence and Joe will agree with me, you got to put that stuff on, you got to put hairspray on, you got to be, is it raining outside? Is there wind outside? It's such a pain in the ass.
I live such a, I've overcome a lot, but it's a pretty limited lifestyle. Like, if I want to, like, play sports, for instance, I put on a ball cap, and if I'm playing basketball and you got a ball cap on backwards, it's going to be flying off. It's just the way that it is. And Joe has seen that, and it ain't pretty. So
it's pretty bad.
If I could have booked an earlier flight to leave when I was down there, I would have. That's how scary it was.
But and my reality is, and I swim, I do all kinds. I'm an active guy, but there are aspects of my life. I have to I have to kind of see how windy it is out today. If I'm going to spend, I'll give you an example. I was once invited to a wedding on a boat. This is early on. This is early on in my hair loss career when I really started to have to use a lot of hairspray. And this is someone who I like.
I'm laughing a little bit because I lived it. I know what's going to happen, but go ahead.
And I'm like, I made the choice not to go because I didn't want to have a completely anxious day. Yeah. And I ended up giving these people a more expensive gift than I would have. And I didn't get to enjoy that experience because I was too consumed by the wind. Now, I'm a little different now. Now I'll be like, look, can I wear a ball cap to the wedding? I'm just kidding. I will just put like a lot of hairspray on. I've been doing this for a living for so long.
You're more mature. You're older.
Yeah.
Back in what I was at 26 and what I am now and how I think of things are completely different. Not that it's comfortable. If I put no concealer on, people, they would notice that I have a bad hair transplant. Let's put it that way.
Do you know, I haven't been able to get a lap dance for 20 years. Because these girls, they go right for the hair, especially if they think it looks okay and full and whatever it is. They want their hands go right for the hair, and it's like it gets stuck, like it's like a fucking cobweb.
One stripper had to go to the emergency room. She broke a finger.
She broke her nail.
She broke her nail. Yeah. Look, Louis, let me say something. You kind of you affirmed one of the things that I tell people about guys like us that have had bad work. It's a common question when you talk about it is, well, how'd you deal with it? And my outlook on this is simple: is that when you have work that's so bad where you have every right to be self-conscious about it because people are talking about it to your face, or even worse, behind your back. You do one of two things. You either withdraw and live the life of a hermit, wearing a ball cap everywhere, refusing promotion. I was talking about this earlier in the show. Excuse me. Refusing promotions because the new position requires a dress code where you can't wear a hat, things like that, or you overcompensate for this shortcoming in your appearance with personality plus. You're more outgoing. Like I was always in the restaurant business for many years. My formative 20s, I was bartending, I was waiting tables, and I couldn't wear a hat. So this was kind of like my my personality plus stage where I was always a shy guy, but it changed like that. I had to be, on stage every day, every single day. I had to present myself. I had to become a salesman for my appearance and in my person, not just the products, chicken wings or whatever the fuck I was selling, things like that. Right. And you just talked about that, where you're kind of, personality plus yourself. You had to be outgoing, and I get that, and I agree with that. You're saying that, and it just kind of like, it rings completely true for me. But I also want to address what you're talking about with your scalp issue. You said you got like 40 plugs, and you've got this scarring, which is cobblestoning, or the other kinds of scarring that you can have. Would you rather be bald now and have the scars on top, if you could, or do you have to move forward and redistribute and have a natural appearance?
Here's my thought line on that. I'm going to do the finasteride for a year or two if my hair stays the way it is now, and I'm doing what I'm doing now. And at that time, make a decision. I would prefer, even if I had some scarring, I'd like to minimize it if it's possible, going bald, because it's such a pain to put on. At this stage of your life, it's not so much, you want to attract every single girl, and you want to, you're 26 and you're going out to bars, and you're not at that stage. So it's such a pain. And at the same time, I feel like it's like a facade. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're putting on a show.
Yeah, I'm not who I am. Yeah. And so but then again, I don't want to go into a grocery store or somebody and have people staring at you like, you got something weird on your head. I don't think that would be I've seen other people that have pigmentation diseases and stuff like that, and I look at that and I say, wow, how can those guys go out? But I guess they get used to it or whatever, and I guess I can get used to it. But my train of thought is, if I maintain my hair, I might. And one thing that also happens to you when you have had bad work, you go and now you don't trust anybody. You don't trust anything you hear from doctors, and it's really hard. Because I went, I think, in 2005, and looking back, I probably should have had the transplant at that point to Nussbaum down here in Miami. Because at that time, I had some resources where I could pick out the better people that were doing it. And back when I first had 86, there was no like a hair transplant only clinic. There were guys, a handful of guys that were doing. I didn't even know a handful because I only went to Resnick, and I trusted him so that I just took his word for it. And like I said, when I first saw those plugs coming in, I went right back to him. I said, take these things out. I would have rather been bald a million times over. And back in those days, like Joe, I laugh because Joe's right. If you shave your head, you were a skinhead. There was no Michael Jordan, no Andre Agassi, no Bruce Willis, no what you see now. So
you had Yul Brynner and Kojak, Telly Savalas. That was our go-to guys. And Yul Brynner had like the perfect shaped face, and and Telly Savalas was just like Telly Savalas. Cool. He had this whole cool vibe about him. You ever listen to his album, his music? Like he's just talking.
No, I
haven't.
It's
like it's the same type of stuff that William Shatner did. Just like talking music,
spoken
word. It's hilarious.
Back in my day, I remember people calling people, to insult them, Kojak and stuff like that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It was an insult. Yeah, absolutely, it was an insult for sure.
So when you walk into a clinic, particularly a doctor that I've been going to, because I did play a lot of tennis in my lifetime. I had when I was young, like 17, I had a little cancer, but it's basal cell right on my lip, which is a very minimal. It's not even a cancer, almost like just basically drop it, cut it out, and it heals by itself. And he did that, so I trusted him. And unfortunately, he was one of the guys that started, we're gonna do transplants. And I forgot to tell you also that there's so many things. I almost have to write them down. How many things that he did not tell me or did not mention? Number one, he never asked me about my history.
First thing is, this isn't going to look good. That's the first thing he neglected to mention.
Yeah, well, I laugh because it's part of, getting over having something bad like that happen to you.
Well, and that's the thing, I have to, this is not a laughing matter, but the reality is you have to step back and you have to fucking laugh at just how ridiculous these people are. They're supposed to be, they became physicians. Whatever happened to first do no harm?
Yeah, no doubt. And you can't be even aggressive. If you think there's something that is even halfway could hurt the patient, you got to go and be conservative.
There is no one back in that day, not even the great Norman Orentrack. I had to go off camera to respond to somebody on my Instagram account who essentially said, when I was kind of doing a tongue-in-cheek, he essentially said that, that I'm making Norman Orentrack proud for what I'm doing every day or something like that. I read it before. And I had to say, dude, the reason I'm doing this is because when I had the consultation, I realized the industry was so fucked up that it had to be exposed. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing. But
I wish because I know the first time I either saw or heard something about that were in chat rooms, the Bald Truth and things like that.
Yeah.
Just lately, I picked you guys up on the internet, which is where I started to look at all the programs from before, and you get more information from your program again. And I've been through it, and I've looked for all kinds of information through libraries, internet, with you guys, truthful information that people can do some good decision-making with from you guys than you would to go into a good doctor. That's what I feel. And
the reality is, and I appreciate that, and the reality is, and that's what we created many, many years ago, and what Joe's been doing. When Joe was actually working in a facility for for physicians, and he was trying to do his best to educate patients while he was in that position. But, I wanted to create a place where people can talk about an issue that society doesn't allow us to talk about. And if you don't have to make money from the sale of surgery or from performing surgery, there's a lot of things you can do. I figured out a way to earn money doing what I'm doing. And the reality is I will not sell surgery. I have a group of physicians that pay annual, dues to be a part of my organization. And they all know that I'm going to talk people out of surgery. But you know what?
Yeah,
they support it anyway because they know it's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
Right. And not only that, you basically standardized a field that lives on, smoke and mirrors.
It preys on the vulnerability of people who are suffering, who are trying to somehow find a way to become more comfortable in their own skin. When I go on, I just started using Instagram, and I see the fucking shit that from the so-called grand poobahs of this industry on their Instagram page and their Valentine's Day sales and hair for the holidays bullshit. I am like, are you fucking kidding me? It's 2019, and it's worse than ever.
They're still doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's worse than ever. I've been waiting, like Laughing Spence says, every 5 years, you think a pill is going to come around and grow your hair back or whatever, because I was so disappointed with what I was told and what I got. I was so conscious of, God, if I get another hair transplant and something goes wrong then, what do I do then? Even more scars, because I still, like I said, I got to make a decision what I'm going to do anyways. But, this Resnick, when I went in there, he never even asked about my family history. If he would have just have said, what's your family history? My dad is like a Norwood 8, he'll break a scale. And my mom and my mom's only brother is bald.
It's like you have the Norwood scale, and then you have his dad like in the corner, like busting through it. That's fucking hilarious.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the
just
Kool-Aid
that-
guy.
Yeah.
Right. Just like right there, he should have said, "That's it. Don't do it," because you no way. You're 26. Who knows what's going to happen to you? These guys back in those days, and they still do it now.
They still do it now.
They would, I hear more, which it's encouraging. Some doctors will say, make sure you don't do anybody before 30 or 35 or whatever. Back then, these guys were just whoever. They just thought hair transplant was for everybody.
Dude, there's a vascular.
They're still doing it.
There's a former vascular surgeon on the island who got a neograft and some other shit, and he has been in local New York media discussing and hence promoting the concept of performing hair transplant surgery on teenagers.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Right.
It's Russian roulette. No one can tell.
Dude, my whole thing is, and I've said this many, many times. Now, Joe will disagree with me again because some younger patients can benefit. But I think 35 is a great cutoff. Norwood 3 or above. And you really need to consider being on medication before you decide to get yourself cut.
Absolutely. Any doctor who says anything but what you just said is malpractice.
Now, there are guys who can benefit at 29 or 30 who have, a pretty good family history. They're already on Propecia. They seem relatively stable. They're good responders, and they may get a great decade of their life with a good hair transplant. But that still has to be assessed. Their emotional status, their mental status, their capacity to accept the possibility of a surgical failure has to be assessed.
I think at between 25 and 30, but not for minor loss, not for a thinned Norwood 2 going to a 3.
Right.
I think that, I wrestled this even when I was working in clinics. I wrestled with this, where a patient would walk in, say 24 years old, and really bald, like a full-on 6.
Right, I've seen it.
It becomes there's a question there. It's like, okay, so if he can go on medication, and he can get maybe a little bit of return on that medication after a year. Is it so wrong to give him coverage on top? Don't do anything aggressive for a hairline, but give him something mature that he can grow into, and then coverage on top, so that he's not bald as fuck. He's just bald in the back,
right?
And in a high hairline. And I think in some cases that makes sense.
I agree with you 100%. But here's where I see the problem in this field.
Sorry, let me interrupt you.
Go ahead. Sure.
But not with FUE.
Okay.
I think that strip is a better alternative, simply because you're staying in the sweet spot. You're not going outside of the traditional donor zone because you can't.
Right.
And that hair is more likely to last for the lifetime of the patient. And Spencer said something earlier or at the top of the show actually about Dr. Ohrenreich proving donor dominance. He didn't.
Right.
He put that theory forward, which was the basis for hair restoration for the next 40 years. But we've learned over time that that's not actually the case either. The theory of donor dominance is a fairly debunked theory. And so there's, and that's why these younger patients, I see the benefit for them, but also look at that issue, and there are a lot of questions. You got to really dig deep into each patient individually to make sure that you're reducing the chances of catastrophe as much as possible. And that's why medication first for at least a year is, in my view, mandatory for everyone, regardless of age.
I think it's gross malpractice not to do that. And I would also add, if I could do it all over again, and this is the one that, again, people can shave their heads or whatever, you should cut your hair short, because that's when you're losing your hair, that's the best way to kind of block it or whatever. It looks better. And or shave your head, and try that for a year. So, get over the panic that I'm losing my hair and things are changing, because change, people don't like change. It makes them nervous because they don't know what they're working into. And I know looking back, I super overreacted. But of course, when somebody tells you, hey, yeah, we got a cure for that, and you can get your hair back at 26, and those times you jump, you don't ask them, do I jump? You say, how high do I jump? Because
you jump and then you ask them how high. Yeah, you can't resist. You're done. You
can't
lose.
resist. It's like and like I said, I didn't have lady problems.
Dude, let me ask you, what's your name again? I'm sorry.
Lewis.
Lewis. We had a whole thing at the beginning of your call about the name Lewis, and I fucking forgot. That's unbelievable. Anyway, Lewis, are you on Instagram?
No, not yet.
All right, get your ass on Instagram. Follow at Spencer Kobren. Follow me.
Oh yeah, no, I'm going to do that.
Like
for sure.
that stuff. Every once in a while, make a comment. Let people know. We need as many people as possible. Look, I came late to the game with Instagram, but I'm realizing now that hair transplants are fucking being sold on this fucking phone.
It's incredible. It's incredible.
It's crazy.
It's incredible.
So we have an opportunity. What's his name? Frico, his name is Nico, is telling me how he has more followers than me. You know what? You could all change that. Everyone who's watching this program, everyone who's listening to this program, go and follow me at Spencer Kobren. Regram stuff if you can. Even if you have to, the great thing about Instagram is you can create, several accounts, and you can regram stuff. You can get it out there. We are all responsible for changing this field.
I hear you, and I really feel, I've only really caught on to you guys about 2 weeks ago, and I started listening to some of the shows, and then went through a lot of the shows that were pre-recorded. And I said, well, let me give him a call tonight and tell him my story.
It's a sad story. It's a very real story that you just so you know, as bad as you think you are, you still were able to go out, live your life, finish, get your degree, fulfill that.
Even though it cost me a year, which is a lot of money, and a wasted year, because I couldn't take the scrutiny at 26. Everybody, hey, what's going on in your hair? What are you doing?
Well, I actually, when you said that, I actually wrote down the time code of this broadcast. We're going to put this on, on YouTube and on that particular part of your call and on Instagram, because that illustrates the reality of what is happening. And as bad as it was back when you did it, and even though they were using 4mm plugs and it was still the dark ages of hair transplant surgery, we have come full circle. It is now again the dark ages of hair transplant surgery. What I see on Instagram, something just came in, it is unfucking believable what is being done to these poor kids today.
Yeah,
Worse, you were one of the small minority of guys who were getting hair transplant surgery back in the day.
Back in the day, yeah.
Now
Lucky you, man.
It is a common procedure. It is accepted by the mainstream. So everyone thinks they can just go and get their fucking hair fixed.
Yeah, I remember about 4 or 5 years ago starting to see commercials. There's a new, they always come up with a new procedure, the newest technique, a neograft. And I said, well, let me see, that's interesting. What is that all about? And it's not a new thing. It's just, a little plug that they pull out with
I'm going to say this, and we've said this before. I have an undercover technician that we're doing a series with, an undercover doctor. The technician said it for herself. This girl works in the trenches. She can use any device. She does great work herself. Now, does she have a license to perform surgery? Well, you know what? She's not a licensed physician, but in certain states it is currently allowed. And she has said point blank that what these device makers are selling, both physicians and to consumer, is a lie. And she actually said a blatant lie. Now, these are her words, not mine. Do I agree with them? I do. There is no new technology Well, there is,
Zero.
but there's nothing new as far as surgical technique in the last couple of decades. FUE's been around since 1999 that I'm aware of. Before then, with Dr. Ray Woods.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing fucking new. This was being done in the 1930s.
Right. And
it's a fucking joke, Joe.
It's a joke.
Say it again.
One thing I would tell people out there that are thinking about getting a hair transplant are going through the same emotional things that I went through, and you guys probably did too, is that as you get older, this will become more in perspective, particularly now where shaving your head is not like I see people with hair that shave their heads.
Yeah.
It's not such a big thing, but realize that you'll get a different perspective, and you need to try cutting your hair shorter, shaving your head, going through that phase. And if you absolutely can't stand it, and you have a good chance of being a candidate, not like me, I should have never been cut ever, just on my history.
Yeah.
Unless it was some exceptional medication or something. But
it's a fucking disgrace.
I was sold on that. I was sold on that 2% minoxidil, which I had to buy from the doctor. I think it was $80 a bottle, was going to save my hair.
Oh yeah,
I
went through it all and somehow had the wherewithal to step back once these guys wanted me to commit to surgery. Or there's one company that wanted to sew in a wig with sutures onto my head.
That.
I was just like, this is fucked up. And believe me, I was losing hair every day. I didn't like the way my hair looked anymore, but I still had no visible scalp. So how the fuck were these guys going to get? I went to the hair club. And listen, I know Cy Sperling. We're friendly now. But, back in the day, I went to the hair club, and it was just like they would not tell me what they were selling me. And I got to tell you, I feel bad for this woman to this day. I put her feet to the fire. I literally saw this woman perspiring. She was sweating. By the end of our consultation, she finally said, okay, this is what it is. And she showed me what it was, and it was a fucking wig.
Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
And they were willing to shave my hair off as a young man at the age of, I think I was 24 when I went to the hair club, and replace it with fake hair just to make a buck.
Just to make a buck. And they put their patient's health, not only physically, but one of the things that is underplayed or really not gone into is the emotional, the mental.
Sorry, trying to get Joe.
The mental anguish that you have, which is even more than the physical.
Oh yeah.
I mean, this could, like Joe said, this could be something that stops you from even interacting with people, becoming a hermit.
Dude, I've known guys who've been. Let's put surgery aside. I was talking about the hair club. They go to this place. They're sold a strand by strand system or whatever place they go to. They don't know exactly what they're getting into. They're saying that you really only need to get maintenance at once every 4 to 6 weeks. Can you imagine having this thing glued onto your fucking head for a month?
No.
Do you understand the hygiene issues?
Yeah.
First of all,
and not only that, the right now, I mean, back in the day, believe it or not, I know you guys probably remember this, but our idols back then, the men like Burt Reynolds and all these guys that lost their hair, they would wear wigs.
To my mother. I think one of the greatest disappointments in my mother's life is when she found out that Burt Reynolds was wearing a rug.
It's a cop-out.
Listen, I'm all for it. I think that if you're wearing, I think now in today's hair systems, you should go for that before surgery. That's how I feel. Because surgery should always be a last resort. But with that said,
I would agree with that.
I just never forget my mother literally was in like verbal, physical denial when my father told her. I was a little kid watching this, like, I'm not going to say it was a breakdown, but she was just like, there's no way. I don't believe that. I thought that was so fucking funny, man. But
it's funny because my friends used to tell me when I was young that I looked like Burt Reynolds, and I kind of liked, his persona.
Yeah.
And back then, that's, when you're young,
you must have been a good-looking dude.
People doing.
Yeah. He must have been a good-looking dude, so that's why you were even more concerned. And I hate to say it,
Well,
when you're attractive, and you start to lose that edge that you may have just taken for granted, and all of a sudden women aren't looking at you the way they used to look at you. You're not getting as much attention. Things aren't as easy for you. That could fuck up a guy who has been considered more physically attractive their entire lives than somebody who might not be.
Absolutely. When you don't know, I was, and probably played bad into what finally happened with a hair transplant. But I was, athletic. I was the captain of my football team in high school. I got into veterinary school, which is probably the hardest school to get into because there's only one here in Florida. I had all straight A's, not in high school, but once I got away from the high school stuff, I didn't have a lot of defeats in my life. And when the hair problem came, it was like I couldn't take it. It's like, how can I? My whole life was like competing with people and, being competitive on a sport.
You were a winner, dude. You were a fucking born winner, and all of a sudden, in your mind, you got the losing gene, the losing hand,
and you don't know how to handle it.
And let me tell you, there's a reason I'm behind this fucking mic, dude. There's a reason why I turned my Achilles heel into my life's work, because I'm not saying I was not the captain of the football team, but I was an athlete. I was very social. I didn't have, I was no fashion model or anything, but I never had problem getting the most prettiest girl in school and all that stuff.
No, I can tell. I can tell that just by how you present yourself on TV.
And well, thanks. And that I had long hair. It was beautiful. Compliment.
In the 80s, everybody
all
had
the
long hair.
time.
That's another problem. But
yeah, and it fucked me up so. I went to a fucking dark place, man. And
I was there.
And I guess, I just thought that everyone was so dirty in this industry. I saw it right away. Once I started to lose some money, and I was already kind of like, I was a young entrepreneur, so I had the money to get a hair transplant or anything back in the day. I started working for myself at the age of 18. So It wasn't like I had to go to my parents or anything. So I was able to, I flew to different places across the country. I had consultations with everybody. I came out to Los Angeles when I was in New York, when the first plastic surgeon was doing what's known as a jury flap, which is kind of made famous by Fleming Mayer. I considered all of that shit. This guy, luckily, I never forget this guy because he's a famous plastic surgeon. His name is, I'll never forget this guy. His name is Garth Fisher, and he was one of the first TV guys. I forgot the name of the show, Extreme Makeover.
Right.
But this guy sat me down. He had it done himself in Japan. He had a really good job done. But he said, "Look, man. First of all, you have minimal hair loss. I wouldn't do this on you. But if you do continue to lose your hair, you have to understand that this flap can die. And if it doesn't work out, you're going to be stuck under a hairpiece. You have to be willing to, you have to be prepared for that." And I was just like, "Doc, thanks a lot. I'm getting the fuck out of here."
Lucky you were able to get that information. You send that guy a gift every year because.
Well, let me tell you this: when I was published, I sent him a book, and I with an inscription thanking him for essentially helping to save my life.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah.
Because what happened to me was when Resnick did my first hair transplant, I was so disappointed that I didn't want to give him another penny. So I knew his partner at that time. They were Resnick and Lewis, and somehow they broke up in between when I got my hair transplant. So I went to Lewis because he was, again, back in the day.
Wait a second, you went to Martin and Lewis for your hair transplant?
Yeah, that's what it turned out to look like. But anyways.
Look, Joe's back.
So I went to Lewis, right? And the dude starts touching my hair, my head, and he was looking to see if he could do a scalp reduction.
Holy
and back
shit,
in the day, I would have said, "Yeah, go for it."
Yeah.
That was actually
in
my long-term plan was to have scalp reduction.
Yeah, I mean, and the way the way that they presented it made sense. Like, hey, wait a second. So essentially, this is hair-bearing scalp. We just bring it all together, and the bald spot's gone.
It works great on the chalkboard. It's just when reality comes.
Yeah, they don't talk about the fact that all of a sudden you have a new hairline that's an inch higher than your ears. All of your donor, if that dog-eared scar doesn't stretch, all your donor is completely thinned out and stretched out over your scalp. The entire integrity of your scalp, especially if you had more than one scalp reduction, is shifted.
Yeah, and it's a they sell it like it's easy, don't worry about it, dental thing. This is a major surgery. They're cutting your head open, basically.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? Just on the entertainment side of it, I think that's why Mr. Trump wears his hair the way he does, because they say that he had some kind of flap or something.
Well, I would say that I would say, and again, I don't know this for sure. I mean, all I can say is I have been told by a couple of physicians, one in particular, who may or may not have claimed to have performed some of his repair surgery, that he had, again, this is all alleged, several procedures, and my mic just cut out, sorry, several procedures, and, he's basically stuck. He's stuck in that situation.
He's stuck, yeah. I mean, that's why that's my idea why he combs his hair the way he does.
Who chooses to live that way if they don't have to?
That. Yeah, he's got so much hair in the front that it would be easy, just to set his part a little bit different, and have enough hair in the front.
Absolutely,
but,
I do think that he would probably, because he has a good hairline,
right?
Maybe a few grafts into that where the potential flap was taken out could help him, give him the ability to comb his hair back.
Right.
And it may look a lot better, but he may just not like the way he looks with his hair combed back.
Well, at this point, it's like putting hair on Patrick Stewart. It's like it's his look. That's the way he looks. It's like what's his name from Seinfeld? The short bald guy. What's his name?
Costanza.
George.
Costanza. Yeah.
Jason Alexander.
Jason Alexander.
Well, now he's walking around. He started walking around with a hairpiece.
Yeah, he started walking around with a hairpiece, and I've not seen him do anything.
Well, let me say this. I know the company that he got the hairpiece from, and I know another guy who goes to this particular company. I can honestly say, in my view, and again, this is just my opinion, and I'm not here to harm anybody's reputation. His system doesn't look wonderful, and frankly, you can go online to coolpiece.com, order a stock unit for $220. That's 50% density. Have it cut in by a smart, by a creative person, and it could look great.
Right.
I'm sure
he has the resources to do it, and
certainly.
I don't know.
But here's the thing about hairpieces. Everyone now has the resources to get a good hairpiece, and that's what people don't understand. You can buy hairpieces so inexpensively, they could look basically like disposable contact lenses, but the person who wears them has to be okay with looking like they're balding. Otherwise, it doesn't work. It has to be like basically 40 to 50% density, maybe less. Maybe, I would say 40% density. If the base is really great, it looks 100% natural. You cannot tell somebody's wearing a hairpiece. But you see their scalp, and people don't want to do that. They want to do the Burt Reynolds.
Yeah, I've been told there's, the different hairpieces look good, better now, but I still, I go through this thing with this.
Are you married?
No, not anymore.
Okay.
But I do have a girlfriend, live-in girlfriend.
Well, you should consider, before you decide to have any surgery, because you're 58 years old. I'm going to be 54, so we're close in age. Yeah. You have someone who you're already screwing, who already knows you intimately, who probably doesn't give a shit, and may even say, "Wow, you look great." You might want to consider, experimenting with some very light hair systems before you consider going under the knife again.
That's a great advice, and I've had that even with other. I'm in the medical field, so I know psychologists, doctors, and everything like that. And they always, especially psychologists, tell me, do whatever you do something that's not irreversible.
Right.
Do that first. Try that first. And before you do anything else that's irreversible that got you in trouble in the first place,
You got to go.
get the.
And I don't work for this company. I make no money from this company. But the reason I like them is because it's a very small company, and they provide, at least from the people that contact me, really good service. They got to fix their website because you don't really get a good idea of what's on there compared to some other online hairpiece companies. But this company called coolpiece.com, I mean, they have a great return policy. Even if you get something custom, you can return it. And you might want to just buy like a stock unit at a very low density and then have it put on temporarily just with tape.
Right.
Spend $220 on an experiment. Have it cut in. And don't shave your head, nothing like that, just on top of your hair. And he may be like, holy shit. I don't need to do anything. I'm just going to go for this.
Well, I'm glad you gave me that referral because I've had already some people down here in Miami say, go visit this guy with a hairpiece kind of deal.
No. What you do is you order it online, you find somebody local, you contact local hairstylists and say, have you ever cut in a hairpiece? Is this something that, and some people are really good at it, and they'll charge you for a regular haircut.
Right. That's great advice. Something came to mind when we were talking about Donald Trump. A guy with billions of dollars, and something you said to me about, that people that have a lot of things going for them can fall prey to the hair deal, or if they're good looking, or they haven't had issues with finding girlfriends or whatever. A guy with billions of dollars, fame, goes and gets a freaking surgery on his head. That's how powerful it can be for the right personality.
Oh, yeah.
Of course.
Absolutely. Well, he was always concerned about it. He was concerned about it. He saw him in the 70s. In Studio 54, he's doing the comb over.
Yeah. I mean, if you have $1 billion, are you worried about women? Come on.
It's ego, and it's, listen, I would have been the same way. Absolutely. It doesn't matter how much money I had. Say that again?
I didn't have his money, and I jumped to it. And a lot of it was recognizing that I would feel uncomfortable if I walked into my 10-year reunion with my high school and everybody had hair and I was bald.
Well, I'm going to tell you guys a secret, and I've said this on the air before. I chose not to go to my 10-year reunion because I had already started to lose some hair, and I was styling it in a way that I felt might have been obvious. Now, I didn't feel the same way in my 20th. I didn't find the same way in my. I didn't feel the same way in my 20th because I was able to save it, and it looked the same that it would have looked in my 10th. I knew everyone else would be bald.
Right.
But I did not go to my 10th. I mean, I really struggled with that. I was like, I'm not going to go.
You don't have to tell me because I know in my day when I was younger, I would at night when the sealer worked better, I'd like darker places. I didn't like the sun. Heck, I lived down in Florida where there's water. Everything's about water. I didn't go in the water. If I went in the water, I never dunked my head. I mean, I lost a lot of things because of this, stupidity. Not stupidity. I just got trapped. It was, a perfect storm kind of thing.
Oh, dude.
And anybody can get trapped in it, especially back then.
Lewis, we're going to have to call it a night. I don't mean to cut you off,
okay.
But you're a great fucking caller, man. I'm so glad that you are now tuning in and that you called in to tell your story because it's really important. And honestly, I'm not just saying this. I would like you to be a regular. Call in once in a while. Call in for 3 or 4 minutes and just, say hi, talk about your day, let us know what you decide to do. I really would consider a very light hair system since you are trying to figure out options now.
Right.
I know you're like, that's probably killing you. Like, I don't want to put this thing on my head.
It's like it does, but no.
Dude, you've been sprinkling fucking makeup on your head for how many years?
I know. But let me ask both of you guys, because this will, and I'm definitely going to be calling in, and I definitely pray that everybody that's listening right now, and anybody that's going to listen right now, listen to what Joe and Spencer are telling you. They've got so much experience. You have more experience than a doctor because you see all different doctors and you see all different kind of cases. A doctor may be, in his own little bubble, and you guys see it all across the board. And you've got your structure is right where you don't have incentive to be, whoring out a hair transplant or whatever. So you guys are, like I said, I wish this would have been available when I was making my decisions. Nothing really was available. But anyways, and I will be calling back. You guys are doing an unbelievable service because I've had the pain of dealing with this stuff. And it's been, if somebody asked me, what is the worst, I don't like to say decision because that makes me like guilty.
Right.
But what is the worst advice I ever got in my life? Get a hair transplant.
Yeah.
Boom. That was fucking powerful, dude. I'm going to have to use that for the opening of the show.
That was powerful.
I don't even hesitate.
Yeah.
There's no hesitation. And you have so many decisions.
I need a second. I need a second take of that. Say that again.
The worst decision that I've ever, not decision, because again, that puts me not knowing what I'm doing. The worst advice that I was ever given was to have a hair transplant.
Good night.
Or not even close.
Good night.
You didn't leave a pause.
I left the pause.
You jumped in with the.
Oh no, there's plenty of room.
All right.
Let me ask you these guys one last question here. If I went forward with the two ideas are take the plugs out of the front of my hair and do some kind of SMP or some kind of.
Nope. Stop. Nope. Stop.
Okay.
Nope.
Go ahead.
You got scar tissue on your scalp, in the recipient area of your scalp where the graft's replaced.
Right. Yeah, I know.
The likelihood of SMP of any kind, trichopigmentation, permanent SMP, whatever, working for you for the long term is greatly reduced because you just don't know how scar tissue is going to take the pigment. It's different than skin tissue, and it's unpredictable. So
yeah, I've heard you guys say that a little bit.
Just like we're talking to Nico earlier, you can't include that in any sort of long-term plan. What I've seen work for guys like you are, yes, you can add more hair to it if you have the donor reserves, but you can also have them removed and then redistributed by taking those plugs and then dissecting them under microscopes into their proper follicular units, and then place back into the scalp the way that God intended. I mean, I've seen that done many times with a few clinics that are experienced with it, and it can work really well. The problem is that it can't all be done at once. You gotta go back in for several procedures to do it right. But it's worth it. That would be you'd have to do that, take them out and redistribute them. But you do more hair transplants, right? Within that. Well, you want to take it in stages. It's like, I don't like trying to knock anything out in one shot because it's it's like if you try to knock everything out in one shot, then you got more to lose, and it just can get ugly. So stage it. Like where are these plugs anyway? In the hairline. I gathered that, but how far back do they go? To the mid scalp?
Not far at all, because it's just like one row at the. Luckily, he put them in the with a kind of conservative hairline. Mm-hmm. So he put them in the right. Nussbaum told me he put them in the right place.
Oh, so you went to see Bernie Nussbaum?
Yeah, about 206. I went to see him, and I almost went ahead and did it, but I was so still jittery about what had happened to me, and is there something new going to come across?
Well, now he's practicing with Paul Rose, and his son is in the practice, and so you got some young eyes there.
I remember I lived in Tampa for a little while, and Paul Rose was out of Tampa, and now they combined down here in South Florida.
Paul Rose and Bernie Nussbaum, but you just mentioned Paul. Paul has such a, and so does Bernie, but they're real doctors,
Right.
Like they actually give a shit about people.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And plus, Nussbaum has the hair transplant himself. That in itself gives.
Well, Paul Rose actually had several procedures, including a lift. So
really?
This guy actually, he's his entire top of his head is either transplanted or it's a combination of other procedures. I mean, and he looks pretty good.
Right.
So they've both been through it.
Yeah. And that's one other thing that I advise people out there. When you see Joe, you see he has you can't tell he has a hair transplant.
No.
But Joe has got, 10 procedures?
9.
9. People don't know, and I'm sure Nussbaum has had who knows how many. People don't understand that even if it's done right, this is something that you're going to be in there, 2 years from now, 3 years. This is not 1, 2. I guess it's gotten a little better here lately. At least they say, 1, 2 transplants. That's it. You don't have to go do any more. But
so this way, it's like getting your tits done. These girls are going early and they get it done at 21 years old. They have to rotate those things out for at least 4 or 5 times.
And they don't even know it.
They don't even know it.
And here's the thing. With regards to my case, I got to make this clear. If I didn't work at the clinic, I wouldn't have had so many procedures voluntarily. Like I wouldn't have said, "Oh, it's time for more work." After I had my first repair, and I had no plans on doing a second one, but I also wasn't, I wasn't online as Joe Tronic with my former alias at the time. The second one was after I learned that it was even possible, and I learned what the potential was, and that was just to address the back where I was still very bald. And then the third one was after I started working in the clinic, and Dr. Wong was like, "Hey, we had a cancellation, and let's get you looking as good as possible for the upcoming conference." Okay. Right. So I walked the 15 feet to the surgical suite and had number 3, which was number 5 overall. Everything else after that, like even after that or after the second one instead of the third one, I could have been fine, moved on in life, and maybe have been here, doing whatever. But every one of those was simply because the surgical suite was 20 feet away. That's it.
Right.
Would I've had more because of hair greed? Maybe, but it's not. It wasn't necessary. It wasn't required. It wasn't because I had a hair greed. It was simply because it was there. It was offered, and I said sure.
Do you think you look as good as you did after 5 that you do after 9?
It's a great question. After the third one with Dr. Wong, let's just count that as a third one. That's when I had the bulk of all the work done. Everything since then, the subsequent procedures were very small. Were a couple hundred here, a couple hundred there. The fourth one was strictly a scar revision for the back, where I had there's probably 200 grafts I think that came out of that one, and then the fifth one was the final procedure I had as far as like doing strip, where I did have a very specific plan because I was changing my hairstyle, but that was only 1,399 grafts, very small in the grand scheme of things. And then the FUE I had was like less than 100 grafts. It was a test case that Dr. Hassan, he was like, "Joe, come lay down. We'll try a new punch." I was like, "Okay, fine." So I went and lay down, and he did the procedure.
Do that again. You do the best Hassan impression.
You're a brave guy too to be experimenting, but anyways.
I need to test a new punch. Come lay down. and then
the poor guy's just trying to keep his job. He's like, whatever, I'll do it to me.
And then I did a body hair transplant with Dr. Wong, which was also like 120 grafts. So that's it.
Wow. This is what
and that too was a test.
Some people don't think about either is that were you paying for all your procedures?
No,
you didn't pay for anything.
No.
Yeah, people don't realize that they sell you on. Let's get you in the chair. Let's do one hair transplant, and you're on your way. Don't worry.
That would have cost him like 100 G's.
I know that, and all the procedures.
I calculated it. It would have been about. Well, actually, we weren't offering FUE, so I didn't factor that cost in. But still, yeah, we're looking at probably 55,000 US.
Yeah, and so that probably would have been some kind of, if you had to pay it out of your own pocket, would have been a deterrent, a little bit.
Of course.
Some people
A
don't
deterrent?
realize that.
Who, most people can't afford that.
That's what I'm saying. Most people, they don't realize, like luckily I had the money to do it, and I still didn't want to do it. I was so stressed out by the whole procedure.
Look, that's why I feel so grateful that somehow, whether it's a higher power, God, my parents, I don't know how the fuck this happened, but that I was able to make the decision not to do it because I was already making a really good income at a very young age. I had the money to do it. I could have spent 50 grand or 100 grand on surgery. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, I'd have to finance this. I could have just written a fucking check and something stopped me. And man, I thank God. And I think the guys who can't afford it are lucky, especially when they're young, because it gives them pause.
Yeah, when they can't afford it at first, but if they step in it and then realize 10 years down the line or 20 years down that they don't have the money for it, they're going to walk in somewhere and say, "Hey, this is what I got. I need somebody to help because you do it for free." You're walking out the door.
Well, let me tell you something. These clinics will move heaven and earth to make a deal where you can't afford it. They'll drop the price. They'll finance in-house, even though there are finance companies specifically set up for financing these procedures. A lot of these clinics will actually take that note in-house.
I actually have considered, and I was approached by somebody to get involved in financing hair transplant surgery, and doing it for a reasonable price, and even taking risky credit. And I was just like, oh man, that is just. While I know people need it, to give people the opportunity to get a loan that they probably wouldn't get from somebody else to have surgery did not make me feel good. But look, when I start my company, I've sold out.
Most college students go out of school these days with a lot of school loans they can't even afford.
Oh yeah,
much less put out $50,000, $100,000.
That's what cosmetic surgery tourism is for today, so that young suckers who don't have the money to get a hair transplant by someone who really might have some time on tissue, they will fly elsewhere and have it done by slave labor.
Yeah. That's when Joe was saying, well, a lot of clinics finance. I started to go away from anybody that financed and things like that. I'm sure there's good ones that do it, but anything that made me think that they were, lowballing it and just wanted to do it, kind of gave me, let me think about this.
Listen, Lewis, you're a fucking great caller, but it looks like Joe's got to piss in a bottle at this point.
Hey, you guys are doing a super job. I can't say it enough. Anybody out there thinking about doing a hair transplant, listen to Joe, listen to Spencer. Look at what they've put on the internet. You get more good, actionable information from that than you would going to also go see doctors and go see patients from those doctors. But you really got to, this is not an easy procedure. It's going to, even if it's good, like Joe's, your whole life is going to be, hairspray, this, that, and the other thing. I mean, that for your whole life. And I think people are going to be living to 100 and 110 here coming up. Do you really want that? Even if it looks good.
Now you're depressing me. That's how I have to live. Listen, guys, we're
that was
Lewis,
a soundbite right there.
We're going to go, but I want to thank you. And you bring up a good point. Everybody out there, everyone who's listening, even if you create an anonymous account to share this information, and it's just an account that shares our content, you're going to be helping people. Fucking do
tremendously.
It's not a big fucking deal. I'm working my balls off at the age of 53 to get this content out there. He's no spring chicken.
No. So much needed. True It's not that bad, Joe. I don't think.
No, Joe's like 5 or 6 years.
He said 53 is not old, and so I was like 58 is not old, but
he's about 5 or 6 years younger than me. So Joe's still a youngin'.
I'm 5.
Yeah.
He's still in the 40s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
I'm 50
you guys are doing an awesome job. I mean, I'm sure you guys feel a lot of self-worth in what you do just to save one.
I gotta drink myself to sleep every day, dude. So
I fall
you
asleep
guys save a
crying,
lot
sucking
more
my
heads,
thumb.
but don't ever give up, by the way. Even if you become a billionaire, just keep on working on this, because there's really, other than you guys, I can't think of any independent, good source of truthful, good, long-term, researched information to make a decision than you guys when it comes to hair transplants.
By the way, I'd like to
Joe, did you hire this guy?
I'd like to offer you a link to buy my laser helmet.
All right, listen, Lewis, thanks so much. Keep calling, spread the word. And just so you know, I've been doing this for 21 years. And while I want to retire, and I've talked about retiring, I just can't, man. I just can't. It's getting so bad out there. I can't leave all that shit on the table. It's getting worse.
No, he
was trying to retire. He was on the phone with me, and I was like, "You can't retire, Rock.
Yeah.
Get back in there."
Dude, I was looking at Costa Rica. I was just like, you know what? I am done. I earned a good living over the years. I've invested and saved my money, and I live like a responsible citizen.
Right.
Not buying Ferraris and all that crazy shit that some of these doctors do, which is crazy.
Yeah, but which is, it is crazy, but that's for them. But, at least for me, as I got older and older and went to galas, to help animals and things like that, there's, believe it or not, some things more important than money. Money is always a consideration for everything.
Yeah.
However,
sex is more
when you're on
important.
when you're on your deathbed, or a couple of years before your deathbed, you're going to be counting how I help people, not how much money I got in the bank, because that's gone.
Well,
and
listen,
you're going to feel self-worth.
When I die, you guys can have a really nice memorial, get it all over the internet, and say how much I've changed the world. Because you know what? All these motherfuckers in this industry, they're going to be throwing dirt on my grave.
Oh yeah, they're trying to trying to make you dishonorable and just.
They have for years.
Misinformation about what you're doing.
They have for years,
I can tell people, because I've been in this. I haven't done it like you guys do it, but I've been in this misery for 30. When it comes to the hair stuff, 35 years, and I can tell you that you guys have I don't know, but name somebody who does what you guys do as good as you guys do it.
Anyone who claims that they're doing it. And I hate to say this sounds cynical, but it's just the truth. Anyone who claims to do what we do, there's an old school guy that's coming around with, like, he's trying to do some sort of work. He thinks he's doing some sort of work similar to this. And it's all about, there's nothing wrong with making money, but it's all obvious about the money. They're getting the money from the wrong resources. They're doing it the wrong way. They are cozying up to the guys who have allowed and have been complicit in all of this fucking butchery for so many years.
But Spence, that happens in all medical fields. I look around and say, well, why don't there are people that support breast implants like you guys do, advocates like what you guys do, an independent source that standardizes what is going on in that particular.
To be completely candid, and we have to close up shop, but
yeah.
I do have, and I make this very clear. I founded the IHRS. I have a hair transplant physician organization. I wanted to separate the good doctors from the not so good doctors back in the day when it was a lot easier to make that distinction. But the reality is, there is skin in the game. There is there is income coming in. But like I said earlier in the program, these guys are like, you know what? I'm okay with Spencer saying don't have a hair transplant and Joe Tillman saying don't have a hair transplant. I'm okay with the truth getting out there, because when people walk through my doors, They're going to be educated. They're going to be smart patients and smart consumers. And they're going to be ready for all the possible downfalls and pitfalls of this surgery.
Right. But your referral service, you can call that referral service.
It's not a referral service.
It's not a referral service.
I have no online consultations. I will not refer anybody to anybody.
Right. Exactly. Nobody calls in and says, Spencer, who am I? Can you refer me to? You send somebody over there and they send whatever to you or whatever the deal is, or nothing there. You have an organization that has standardized good care. You know, anybody that wants to be in your organization has to have 500 procedures, has to have certain standards that make them be in this club. That's in itself not what most referral services do, which act on money in a direct, super direct way. You've standardized the business where anybody can get messed up, but you've decreased the possibility of a negative result.
Well, I appreciate you saying that, and that's very well put, and that is really essentially what we do. We want to provide a safe environment for people to start to do their research through, using a platform that has a group of doctors who have a proven track record.
Right.
And sadly, if you look at my group, it's very small. It's not because we're not getting applications every single day. And I send Joe some of them once in a while because they're funny. But if I just said, let's do it, this is not an exaggeration, $25 million a year, maybe more.
Yeah, no, you'd have 1,000 doctors.
And here's the thing about my own standards. I won't even talk to a clinic unless they're already an IAHRS member.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
How's that got you?
Yeah, Joe. I mean, this guy is fucking on board. He is in. Imagine somebody else doing that who's becoming independent, saying that I'm going to connect myself to this limitation. That doesn't happen.
It doesn't happen. No.
All right, dude. Listen, we're going to go.
You guys are doing a great job. I will be calling back. I definitely will be listening. And again, anybody out there, listen to these guys. Make their better decision. And if you can't, don't have a hair transplant, especially in these days. Live the way God wanted you. And I'm not even a really religious guy. Live what you were given and make it, just because you don't have hair, hey, you got a better personality, you got this, you got so many other things come into play that to get a risky surgery put in that and make it where you may do something that you, because right now my most fear is
I'm not going to get you off the phone, am I, Louis?
No, most of my fear is not being bald. For 33 years, I've lived with a fear of not being bald. I've lived with a fear of having a bad hair transplant that makes me look like a fool.
Well, you know what? That's a real fear. And everybody who's considering hair transplant surgery right now, every kid that's online, that's on Instagram, clicking likes on before and after pictures and all that bullshit, you guys are not prepared for this shit, man. Trust me.
Not prepared for it. Cost me a year of my life. I got super depressed. I had to drop.
Louis, I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to interject for you to keep going.
Going back.
Bye, Louis.
Well, because I've been through and you guys talk about it all the time, but because of what I've been through, I can talk about this forever because it's been a traumatic thing to my life that I wish I never got into.
Well, just to let you know that I'm actually watching Joe's chat room, and the people in his chat room are saying not to hang up on you. So that means that you have struck a chord and that you've really been able to express your story in a palatable and meaningful way to these guys. And I appreciate that.
Well, no, I appreciate what you guys are doing. And again, let me let you guys go so you can go and enjoy the rest of your night.
All right, man.
And
Listen,
I will be calling back. You guys are doing a great job. Keep doing it. You get $1 billion. Keep doing it because on your deathbed, you're going to be clicking, what did I do for society? That's what's going to count in the long run.
As long as I'm provided with some good booze, I can do this show forever. All right, man. Take care.
Said.
Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks
Bye-bye.
for taking my call. Bye.
Great call. Fucking unbelievable.
Wow.
But he pulled the Joe from Staten Island.
Wow.
No, but dude, we got some powerful sound bites and some great stuff for Instagram because this guy took off a fucking year of his life.
Because of the plugs that were started
by Dr. Norman Ohrenreich. Let him rest in peace.
You know what I really mourn today?
I want to hear this.
My favorite can of hairspray finally emptied. I was stricken. That's why I was mourning today.
And that
was it.
They're not making any more.
That's it. No, not that one. No, this is the one I got in the drugstore as a fill-in that I like as a backup while I hang on to this liquid aerosol gold that I love so much. But the other one, the backup, that died today, and I was mourning that.
Well, I understand that completely because
yes,
my lungs are coated with plastic.
Yours and mine both. the different, mine more so because I didn't think to wear a respirator.
Well, I didn't think to wear a respirator until 20 years after using hairspray.
I just flip the fan in the ceiling and hope it sucks it out.
Like one day I'm just breathing. I'm like, I feel that. That's really weird. I'm like, holy shit. And I actually spray. I have a stand-up shower, right? With like it's a square. So I have a mirror in the shower.
As opposed to a lay-down shower?
Yes, as opposed to one with a tub, which we have as well. But my particular shower, the one that I use, and I actually go in the shower to spray my hair so that I don't get sticky floors or wall. And I will post a picture of this.
Hold on. You get in the shower, you close the door
close it.
or the
I don't
thing.
close
You
it.
don't. Oh, you don't. Okay.
No.
But you put your respirator on.
I put my respirator on, yeah, and I spray my hair. Now, you'll understand this.
Had to get the visual.
You'll understand this so I'm showering, and all of a sudden, I hear this cracking. And I see, it looked like sheets of plastic coming off the fucking tile. Okay? That's what we're breathing in. Now, I'm sure our body is eliminating it somehow as opposed to it just standing on fucking, subway tile.
And as the sound of the cracking was occurring, so was your faith in your life or with everything else around you. It's like everything is dangerous now.
Dude, I have to say at this stage of my life, I don't know what's going to happen. If I'm one of these guys, if I live, let him rest in peace. As long as Dr. Norman Orangereich, like I should live longer than this fucking dude did.
You should. But you know what?
This guy's work, in my view, has destroyed. Again, this is my opinion, the opinion of the last caller, and your opinion, and anyone who's got bad plug works, destroyed many, countless lives.
Any plug work,
right,
is by definition bad plug work.
Yes.
And I'll just say this:
he led the way for all of that.
The good die young. He lived to be 96. That's all I'm saying on the subject.
Oh, so now I got something else to worry about. Jesus, my day wasn't bad enough. I'm going to get a steak and a drink. All right, guys. Thank you. So actually, I should exercise a little bit before that. That's how I work. Got to take care of the health first.
Got to take care of the health.
All right, guys. Until next time. Somebody asked me to play Gary Coleman. Is that cool on your channel?
Is there music with it?
Well, yes, it's his fucking tune from his show.
It'll get flagged, man.
You sure? How?
Yep. It'll get flagged. It's an algorithm. It's not manual. It's not like someone's like, oh, they use the tune from Different Strokes. Report them. No, it's automatic. Like it'll happen. Like before you and I get off the air with each other.
So like a television show theme song will get tagged.
Yes.
It's unfucking believable.
I'm telling you.
All right, guys. So we can't play Gary Coleman because we're on Joe's YouTube fucking channel.
Any YouTube channel.
Yes.
Would do that.
All right. Anyway, Gary Coleman was on The Bald Truth, and he gave me a wonderful ID. And then after his second run, going through it, he said, all right, if I do this again, he's going to go into his wallet.
Yes.
It was very funny.
It was funny.
All right, guys, until next time, I want to thank everybody for tuning in. We had an extra long show tonight. Great callers. Joe, just throw out those websites quickly.
Hairlossexperiences.com, UK-based forum that is supporting this program by allowing us to stream this show through their website. Go there, and if you haven't registered already, do so and say thank you. We got bellycapelli.forumfree.it, which is the Italian hair loss and hair restoration forum, also supporting this program by allowing us to stream. Go there and say hi. And international-hairlossforum.com, the French hair loss and hair restoration forum, also supporting this broadcast. Go there and say hello.
And guys,
yeah,
that was French. Was that French? That was a French accent?
There's a French person saying hello.
Okay, but you couldn't do a German person, I bet.
Hello. Sorry,
because
yelling.
There is no German website that will embed this program.
Because they think that it's a scheme for us to
take over the world,
to infiltrate our web properties at the expense of theirs.
You're a goddamn disgrace!
Guys, we are going to call it a night. Our website, my website, thebaldtruth.com, for archives of this broadcast. And, of course, please sign up to The Bald Truth. We are putting archives up. I have them all set up. I said this for the last 2 weeks, but I actually have been working on my workflow so that this can be done. So subscribe to thebaldtruth.com. Also subscribe to The Bald Truth, Spencer Kobren's The Bald Truth on iTunes. Don't forget, subscribe to Joe Tillman's page, which is youtube.com/hairtransplantmentor. Subscribe, ring the little bell so that you are alerted to the fact that we're going live.
Yes.
And this is really important. I just started this. It's already growing. People are making fun of me like fucking Freako that I don't have a lot of followers yet, but it's growing. Follow me on Instagram at Spencer Kobren. I'll spell it SPENCERKOBREN. That's at Spencer Kobren. Follow me. Like all that shit that's already up there. Comment. And spread the word.
Like this broadcast. There's a little thumbs up button down there. It's got 13 likes right now. Click it.
Jesus.
If you're not watching live now, do it later when you're watching after we're live.
So fucking lazy.
I know.
We do this for nothing, guys. All right, guys, listen. We love our fans. Our friends. You're friends. You're friends of The Bald Truth.
That's it. That's a better way of saying it.
Yeah. All right, guys, until next time. Before you go to the American Hair Loss Association website, which is americanhairloss.org, you can go to baldtruthtalk.com to check out the message forum. But until next time, be strong, God bless, and thank you guys so much for listening.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for any inconvenience you may have been put to prior to the program, and I'm glad you enjoyed it. And if you could now leave by the exits at the rear, that'd be splendid. Thank you. Good night.
Bud Light presents Real American Heroes.
Real American heroes.
Today we salute you, Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
Mr. Really Bad Toupee Wearer.
More than any neon sign or exploding scoreboard ever could.